Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of speech and the opportunity that you've afforded us to gather together to engage in debate, in discussion. We pray that you would help us to challenge conventional thinking and to be able to explore other ways of thinking so that we may be able to find solutions to the challenges that we face. Be with the speaker and the individuals who will be participating in this debate, and may we have a robust discussion, robust debate. And after leaving this session, may we have a desire to pursue ways in which we may be able to resolve the challenges that we face. We thank you for hearing and answering our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Parliament is in session. Order of government business.
Announcements by His Honor the Speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. To the government, to the opposition, to our specially invited guests, honored members, the judges, the members of the media team. Thank you for making this moment possible, not just for us here in this room, but for young people across the island. As we continue today, we hope for the best of our young people, the best of their speeches to be expressed, and may it all go to plan.
Messages from Her Excellency the President. Petitions, papers, government notices, private members' notices, notices of questions, reports from selected committees, first reading of bills, statements by ministers, congratulatory and/or obituary speeches, personal explanations, motions for leave of absence, oral replies to questions, notices or motions for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance. Orders of the day.
Order number 1. In the name of the Honorable Prime Minister and the Leader of Government Business, to move a passing of a resolution that the Barbados National Youth Parliament 1, in the name of the people of Barbados, and in particular, the young people of Barbados, embrace the planned educational transformation to reimagine the educational landscape in Barbados. 2. The Barbados National Youth Parliament urges the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training to consider the following recommendations, which are designed to ensure that Barbados' education system undergoes a collaborative transformation to enable the fostering of creativity, inclusivity, and adaptability. A. Curriculum transformation. Develop a modern, engaging curriculum that fosters critical thinking, problem-solving skills, project-based and lifelong learning. This includes incorporating gamified elements where appropriate to enhance student motivation, such as in mathematics, through the use of interactive challenges and puzzles with a view to enhance student engagement. B. Comprehensive accessibility standards review. Conduct a thorough review of accessibility standards for disabled students, expanding the focus beyond blindness and deafness. Implement necessary improvements to ensure the full inclusion and participation of students with all types of disabilities in all aspects of education. C. Mental health and wellness education. Integrate dedicated classes or modules on mental health, wellness, and managing stress into the curriculum at all levels, equipping students with essential knowledge and coping mechanisms. D. Transform assessment and promote lifelong learning. Diversify assessments beyond standardized tests, enhance those tests to measure critical thinking and creativity, and prioritize fostering curiosity and lifelong learning among students. E, empower all career paths. Equip all students, including those with non-traditional strengths, with the practical skills needed to succeed in their chosen careers, regardless of academic background. F, digital literacy and online safety. Implement comprehensive digital literacy programs that teach students how to navigate online environments safely and responsibly, while also leveraging technology to enhance learning experiences. And G, early identification and intervention. Strengthen early identification and intervention services to recognize and address special needs and provide support as early as possible.
Recognizing leader of government business.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, good morning. What is educational transformation? Educational transformation refers to the comprehensive process of fundamentally changing the structures, methods, and goals of the education system to better meet the needs of students, society, and the future workforce. It encompasses a wide range of initiatives and innovations aimed at improving educational outcomes, equity, and adaptability. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that our education system has historically served our nation effectively, but we also recognize its lack of equitable service to all leaders. This situation necessitated a thorough examination of our system, identifying policies and practices that remain effective, areas requiring reinforcement, and those in need of reimagining. The overarching goal is to establish an education system that empowers all students to reach their full potential, fostering a future where opportunities are boundless and inclusive. Essentially, it should provide a bright future for all. Mr. Speaker, this resolution's foundation is built on something I would call firm, fair, inclusive, relevant, and modern. Fair to all students to help them to realize their full potential, inclusive of all students challenged, gifted, and with all other exceptionalities. Relevant to the needs of students, the society, and global realities. Modernized to meet the needs of schools, the ministry, and the country's economic growth and development. Mr. Speaker, my government believes that the effective use of technology will undoubtedly increase educational opportunities. Students can now access a variety of online resources and journals related to their study topics through computers and other portable devices, enabling them to gather additional information for their schoolwork. Additionally, leveraging technology can embrace the assessment process. We have considered using online platforms for quizzes, interactive activities, and feedback mechanisms to engage students and to provide personalized learning experiences. Mr. Speaker, while students should be the center of the education system, it is equally vital to take into account the requirements of other participants in education, such as teachers. Mr. Speaker, if we are being honest, a teacher is probably not someone's first choice when choosing a career path. There is a lower value placed on this category of workers. Additionally, it has become a high-stress job. In recent times, the classroom has become a war zone. Teachers are verbally and physically abused daily by students. Unfortunately, many teachers bear the scars and personal stories that highlight the dangers of being in this profession. Regrettably, in many cases, administration has done little to address these issues, allowing the ongoing abuse of teachers to persist. Mr. Speaker, there is a need for greater teacher investment. We understand that if teachers are compensated, recognized, and rewarded, they will not seek occupation outside of our nation. Mr. Speaker, invested in teachers gets profits in education, as well as investing in teachers invests in students. However, being a teacher offers unparalleled opportunity to make a transformative and lasting impact on the lives of others. Therefore, my government is prepared to provide sessions and workshops for teachers to sharpen communication skills and make sure that they are adequately prepared to administer the best quality education for our young people. My government will further elaborate on this point. As I said before, Mr. Speaker, this government aims to transform the education system by becoming more inclusive for all, of all students, challenged, gifted, and with other exceptionalities. In essence, we want to empower all career paths. How will we do so, Mr. Speaker? By providing access to quality education and training for a more diverse professional development to help individuals acquire the necessary skills for various careers. We will also provide and establish mentorship programs and networking opportunities to connect individuals with experienced professionals in their chosen field. One more thing that I will mention, Mr. Speaker, as it relates to the empowerment of all career paths is career counseling and guidance. To help students understand their strengths, interests, and the range of career availability to them, while promoting diversity and inclusion to ensure the individuals from all backgrounds have equal opportunities to succeed in their careers. Mr. Speaker, to transform and promote lifelong learning, we, the government, understand that this involves adopting new approaches and strategies to faster continuous education. Things like competency-based assignments, shifting from the traditional exams to assignments that would measure students' skills and competencies in real-world scenarios, as well as formative assignments and project-based assignments for the application of knowledge, Mr. Speaker. We want to make it more appealing to young persons so that they see the benefit in this form of testing or examining, as I said, to promote critical thinking and problem solving, which is essential to the development of students that go beyond just memorizing and regurgitating information. Mr. Speaker, we propose that this resolution, we stand by this resolution because we believe there is so much here that we can do and that we are going to do to make education transformation the real thing. We see the need in investing in our community as the BNYP has invested in us here today to share our voices. So with all this being said, Mr. Speaker, my government would express to both you, our visiting persons, and the opposition, why we think that this resolution should be supported. So while we are going over this whole resolution, I urge us to not only chastise and to judge the resolution, but to look as both an opposition and a government to work together to make this thing actually come true. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm obliged to you.
Thank you, Honourable Member Jordan Connemore. This time, I'd like to recognize the Leader of Opposition Business. Sorry, Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to start my presentation this morning by asking this question: how many more must carry this load? Sir, the Leader of Government Business would have stand and talked, sir, about and talked and would have asked the opposition, sir, to support a resolution that his government commended to the House, and I'm still waiting to hear what is it I'm supposed to support. I'm still waiting to hear anything that he would have brought here in the resolution. I'm still a bit puzzled as to what is it we're being asked to do, but sir, I continue. In our current education system, sir, we have a system where our children struggle to read and write. Students with learning disabilities are struggling. Teachers with specialist needs are placed to teach full classes instead of just teaching the area in which they're specializing. So we have a system where it tells our young people, sir, either catch up or you'll be left behind. Mr. Speaker, this is an education system, sir, that we need to transform, sir. So today, sir, the title of my speech, sir, and I want to frame my speech, sir, by saying, embracing the future, transforming education in Barbados for the 21st century. George Washington would have once said, education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom. Sir, today we stand at the dawn of a new era in education, one which is filled with immense promise and potential in a world where it is rapidly evolving, driven by technology, advancement, global economic shifts, and changing societal needs. Mr. Speaker, but to prepare our young minds for the future, education transformation is not just necessary, it is our responsibility. Sir, Barbados has a proud history of valuing education, and it has a strong foundation that we hold ourselves to and we yield upon. Sir, we have committed to having our education system as the investment, sir, within our young people and within our youth. But, Mr. Speaker, I am disappointed because, sir, the government, sir, and the Leader of Government Business, sir, I'm really craving his indulgence, sir, because I do not understand what is it he has brought to the House. So while we, as an opposition, sir, we do agree that education transformation is a critical subject, sir, and it needs to be looked at, sir, I cannot, sir, in good conscience, stand here and say to you that the opposition, sir, supports this resolution. Mr. Speaker, the opposition, sir, today has come with a number of ideas, sir. Yes, we have our criticism, sir. Yes, we have things that we believe needs changing, sir. But what we also have is a solution-based idea, sir, in terms of how this transformation should be done. Sir, the notion that transformation is just this side-by-night thing, sir, is something that we have to shift ourselves from. Sir, more than one occasion, sir, at our last session, sir, where we spoke about unemployment, sir, I would have mentioned a number of things, sir. The government would have mentioned a number of things, and I have to go back there frequently, sir, because in all things, sir, education is a part of everything that we do, sir. Mr. Speaker, we have to rethink the way how we teach, the way how we educate our students, sir. Sir, I wanted to spend some time and speaking about some things that I think the government should be able to adapt in moving forward in this transformation of our education system. Sir, first, I believe we need to redesign our curriculum. Our students, sir, needs more than just academic knowledge, sir. Our students need to be able to have the skills and the knowledge to apply in a real-world context, sir. Critical thinking, sir, creativity, collaboration, digital literacy, sir, are necessary in the way and the century, sir, that we live in. Mr. Speaker, by integrating these skills into our curriculum, we ensure that our students are not just consumers of information, but they are active creators and problem solvers. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to really bring over the point that we today, sir, at a critical juncture in where we exist, sir. Transformation is not just a word, sir. Transformation is an action, so that we need to adopt, sir. And Mr. Speaker, there's a quote here by James Barbados that says, as I would have mentioned at our last session, sir, said not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced, sir. The leader of our business, sir, stood there for, I think he talked about 6 minutes, sir. It's only 6 minutes, sir, and he really did nothing, sir, to show that he is serious, sir, about transforming education, sir. And I would implore him and the Prime Minister, and they're speaking. I'm not sure if they're trying to get another speech for him to come back and say it. But, sir, she smells, sir. But, sir, in all seriousness, sir, I am concerned, sir, that the government is at a loss in terms of where we are going. Sir, I want to leave the government alone for a little bit, sir, because they want to digress and speak about something that I believe is very critical in terms of transforming our education system. Sir, while we speak about this transformation, it is important that we also train our parents, sir. I strongly believe that we have to get out this notion that education is just teaching students in a classroom, sir. How do we expect our parents, because a lot of the issues we have in schools come from our homes. So to address education and transfer education, we have to look at the homes of the students that are coming into the schools. Many times our parents don't understand what it is to raise children. And I'm not saying, sir, that I think, sir, that if you're going to, I can't say what I wanted to say, sir. But, sir, I think that if you're going to produce a child, sir, yes, I think that's the better word, sir. If you're going to produce a child, sir, you need to be able to have the skills in terms of how to raise a child. The Bible says, sir, raise up a child in the way of his and when he get older, he shall not depart from it. But, Mr. Speaker, how must I as a parent, sir, live up to that expectation when I do not know how to raise as a child myself? So many times we have persons 15, 16, 17, 18 having children.
Leader of Opposition, sir, I'll let you to wrap up your speech.
No problem, sir. Sir, how can a child have a child, sir? To me, it doesn't make much sense. But, sir, I'm going to do as the leader of government business would have done.
I'm sorry, Leader of the Opposition, you can't do what the Leader of Government has done. Your time has run out.
No, I can do it in 1 second,
Please be
sir.
quick, sir.
I will ask, sir, the Honorable House, sir, to commend this bill in the garbage, sir. Because the resolution has no basis to what we would have come here to do. And
Leader of Government
just as the
Business.
resolution would have said, and the leader of government would have said,
Leader of
sir, we
Government
commend
Business, your
this
time has
garbage
elapsed.
to the House,
And
and
you have a seat.
with that, I'm obliged to you.
Thank you. Recognizing the Prime Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, on a small island called Barbados, stood an inclusive education system where students and teachers existed in modern, sustainable spaces with mental health resources, programs, and technologies that cater to every Barbadian child and supported growth for every educator. Mr. Speaker, that is a fairy tale. It does not exist. It is not the reality of our education system, and that is the problem. 900 students, 900 lives, 900 problems, 900 futures, one guidance counselor. Now, Mr. Speaker, I am not a mathematician, but I know that ratio equals burnout for the guidance counselors. According to the Barbados Association of Guidance Counselors, their vision is to deliver quality leadership in facilitating health and family life education, HFLE, social and emotional learning, and guidance and counseling to students. Now, I had the opportunity to spend a couple of days in a guidance office at a secondary school, and up to now, I cannot get my head around how the guidance counselors do it. Most of their time is spent counseling students, and it leaves no time for them to dedicate to teaching to the HFLE classes. So what happens then is that the HFLE classes become free periods for the students. The HFLE curriculum covers essential topics for our students' development. But, however, they are missing out because our guidance counselors are stretched thin. Greater teacher investment for guidance counselors looks like lightening their workload. We have already started this by implementing psychologists to work alongside some of the guidance counselors in some secondary schools. But we want every school in Barbados, including both primary and secondary, to have guidance counselors, psychologists, and social workers. This will allow our guidance counselors to focus more on helping students developmentally, and the social workers and the psychologists can work on helping our students socially and the mental aspect, mentally. To To assist the guidance department in schools in better identifying the needs of students, we, the government, are looking to identify hold on, because I want to get a specific point.
Order.
Thank you. We, the government, is looking to identify early. So point H on the resolution speaks to early identification and intervention. And this will help strengthen the guidance counselors in knowing the behavioral and learning challenges in students. The government has been engaging in conversations with the Ministry of Health and Wellness to formulate evidence-based interventions through diagnostic testing. The early identification also helps teachers to understand students better and prevents issues arising such as students being put outside their classrooms or being punished and being labeled as being hard ears, when really and truthfully there are students who have gone through the system undiagnosed and their behaviors are due to something that they cannot control. Our goal is to conduct diagnostic tests from as early as the pre-primary stage, because early identification also means early intervention. Our children must have access to intervention, particularly to address special needs and provide support as soon as possible. My colleagues will detail how that intervention will look like. But before I move on, I just want to clarify a point. This government is not seeking to segregate students. When we speak of disabilities, we speak of special needs. When we speak of special needs, we speak of a spectrum. Inclusion means providing equal access to a good education. Yes, some students with disabilities will be in the general educational classrooms, but for our students on the higher end of the spectrum to gain quality education, they need to be in environments tailored specifically for their abilities. If we integrate them without proper support, Mr. Speaker, our gifted students will become at a disadvantage. Hence, the diagnostic testing allows for better intervention to combat such. I want to move on to the point about mental health and wellness education, point C. Regarding our students...
Order, I'm hearing a little too much crosstalk from the opposition side. One person speaks at a time.
Thank you very much. Regarding our students' mental health, if nowhere else have taught us that our young people are struggling mentally, it is here in Parliament. In a previous debate, youth parliamentarians got up and spoke of their struggles with mental health issues. So imagine my shock a couple of days ago when I hear a member on the other side, an honorable member on the other side, trying to mislead the House to say that this government is implementing programs in schools to burden the mental health program, specifically to burden our young people. That is not what we are trying to do. If it's anyone that should be able to understand that our young people are facing mental issues, it is the members in this House, because we are some of the young people facing the mental issues. Therefore, this government sees it necessary to educate students on mental health and wellness. We want our young people to understand that they do not have to suffer in silence. We want them to develop healthy coping strategies, to identify risk factors, to manage their stress. The thing is that this same mental health and wellness module that is on the resolution can be taught in the same HFLE classes. So there's no additional time, there's no additional stress that's being added on to the students. Moving on, in closing, because I know my time is drawing near. Mr. Speaker, my final point will be on infrastructure. We cannot continue to put new paint on old walls and pretend that the buildings are new. And I mean literally. I will give the other side some time to be quiet. Right, and I mean literally. We have had numerous instances of teachers striking due to environmental issues. Section speaks to incentives to attract teachers. Upgrading school infrastructure can directly impact teacher retention and is crucial for maintaining an effective teaching space. Section A speaks on modernizing curriculum. Thank you. I'm closing. Modernization requires updated facilities with advanced technology and flexible learning spaces. Coming home. Section B speaks to accessibility. For our schools to be accessible for all students, there must be significant infrastructure and environmental upgrades. I thought that was obvious. So this government is not ignorant
to the infrastructural needs within the education system, to implement the points on the resolution, infrastructural and environmental issues have to be addressed. It's an inherent part of creating a better system for every child. My last sentence. In conclusion, I will let my colleagues finish. But in conclusion, I will conclude with this. The Barbados that I described when I started can be a reality if this resolution is supported.
Thank you, Madam Prime Minister. Order. Thank you very much. Leader of Opposition Business, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, we have come to this honorable house, Mr. Speaker, to address the critical issue of national education transformation, but the steps in this resolution are inadequate and force me to voice my opposition on behalf of the Barbadian youth. The government has shown yet again that they're out of touch. Sir, this government speaks of curriculum transformation, but they propose teaching styles and teaching approaches that are already in use. Sir, what the government is displaying is a callous insensitivity to the facts. And it is this insensitivity that drives my opposition. Sir, the government, before the government seeks to implement this smorgasbord of cosmetics, I ask the question, what vision do we have for a 21st century Barbadian educational system? Recent common entrance and CSEC results suggest that the Barbadian educational system is not as effective as it ought to be and is in dire need of comprehensive reform. This year's statistics from the Ministry of Education are alarming. 46% of young people fail in mathematics, 26% of them fail in English, and a 19% decrease in CSET exam enrollment. But the government has failed to address these matters. They have still silent on these matters in this resolution. And by omission, sir, it seems that they are simply accepting that it's okay for nearly half of our young people to be deficient in basic mathematics, over a quarter of them to be deficient in basic English as well, sir. Sir, quite frankly, it's a shame. And the silence is deafening. And it is unacceptable. Meaningful change is needed, sir. So what we see from this government is nothing more than just touch-ups. And transformation cannot...
Honourable member, or what point do you raise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order. The honourable member claims that the silence is deafening on these matters, but the silence is non-existent. Section D of the resolution clearly speaks to diversifying assessments beyond standardized tests, Mr. Speaker. Is the 11+ examination not a standardized test?
Thank you, honourable member.
Sir, standardized tests include the tests you do in the classroom. So I'm talking about mentioning the 11+ specifically, which they failed to do. Sir, what we see from this government is nothing more than touch-ups, as I said. And transformation can't be cosmetic. It has to be substantive and goal-oriented. It must ensure quality education for all that produces innovators and leaders in our society. Sir, as it stands, many of our school children struggle with vision, hearing, and other learning challenges, sir. And whilst their parents are unable to pay to have an evaluation done to diagnose the issue, then if perchance they are able to pay for the evaluation, they cannot pay for the treatment. And given this hardship, sir, we are proposing to implement free diagnostic testing in schools across Barbados to identify the learning difficulties early on, like vision and hearing impairment, to give our young people greater chances at excelling. Furthermore, we must move beyond the notion of trendy teaching approaches to enhance our teachers' teaching capabilities, sir. So the government says they want to attract and retain high-caliber teachers. The question is, how do they plan to retool the teachers to make them equipped to provide the students with the skills that they need to lead Barbados in the 21st century and beyond? We propose a reform of teacher training that gives teachers the skills beyond transmitting literacy and numeracy. Rather, we need to train our teachers to produce thought leaders. Another critical issue, sir, is the treatment of the members of the disabled community by our education system. And for quite some time, these citizens have viewed this education system as discriminatory. And successful members of society who are members of the disabled community have pointed to their own resources, their personal resources, as their reason for success and not our education system. And sir, those who attend the Irving Wilson School and the Ann Hill School only do up to 11+ exam, which leaves them ill-prepared for career opportunities and further education. This is an injustice that we cannot ignore. We must have equal opportunity for all, not only the well-abled, and leave the disabled community to suffer. Sir, as a matter of fact, I think the government owes the members of the disabled community a sincere apology for this superficial recommendation they brought in here. The opposition, however, takes the concerns of our differently abled friends seriously. And therefore, we propose going beyond specialized teachers for these students. Sir, we propose the implementation of sensory-friendly environments at schools with noise reduction capabilities, adjustable lighting, and even greater support services such as speech and occupational therapy. This, sir, is transformation, not the artificial nonsense the government has brought in here today. Additionally, the resolution says nothing about the system of segregation, that is the schools of excellence versus the technical and vocational training schools. And educational experts have said, quite frankly, and it makes sense, that streaming on people too early may relegate them to a status that is not their full potential. And sir, there is nothing wrong with the generalist education up to a certain point and then letting them choose at the age of 15 or so what they want to do, as is done now. Again, this government has failed to take a stance on this critical issue. Avoiding issues like they're playing hopscotch with Bajan people education. Sir, we the opposition have to be the change agents, it seems. And we advocate for refining of the education system to include agriculture and other technical skills as additional core curricular activities, whilst continuing with the generalized teaching that is going on right now. Not only will this approach give them the other skills that are necessary to survive and otherwise make a living, sir, it will also contribute to alleviating the challenges of food security that we have here in Barbados, spending $700 million a year on food imports. So we can grow our own. We must make our individuals well-rounded. It will only lead to serve us well in the future. In closing, sir, while we recognize the need for educational transformation, the proposed resolution falls fundamentally and critically short on the fundamental issues within our system. We must ensure that our reforms are not merely cosmetic as they are proposing, but we must ensure that they are designed to foster creativity, inclusivity, and adaptability. We must move beyond being chaos agents and instead become true agents of change. Only then, sir, can we build an educational system that truly serves all Barbadians. And with that, sir, I'm obliged.
Recognizing Honorable Member Kayla Broch.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I rise here today to proudly support the resolution brought before my government because, sir, the government understands that there is a need for change. And an innovative thing we brought forth a resolution that we see is necessary to not only support, but sustain the change that we wish to see for the future. And sir, this is a holistic approach. It's not just a government-side approach. And it is very sad and saddening that the opposition still plays politics on an issue that affects everybody. But sir, my speech today will be around the area of national development, how that is connected to our education. Because sir, I will draw reference now to the COVID-19 pandemic. And statistics brought before the Barbados Fiscal Service outlined that we are heavily dependent on tourism. Also, a report conducted with over 100,000 persons 11,400 people were in the food and beverage industry. And with this resolution, so we seek to create programs, charter new career paths that will not only just make our education system more transformative, but we seek to support and diversify the economy, but diversifying the workforce. And that can only be done once we are supportive of our resolution, and the opposition seeks to understand what we are trying to do here, because this is not a political game, this is a serious business. Because, sir, I'd like now to draw reference again to research done by an Oxford University specialist who outlined bachelor essential learning, which the opposition, wants a little bit, criticizes a little bit, and how that creates and fosters an environment that encourages children to have a much more earlier childhood development. So by doing this, children, alongside the teachers, can set milestones of development along with them, which they can take ownership of their own education system. And service government, by the way, resolution, we also to seek to, as I said before, charter new career paths, such as the agriculture, the digital literacy, the blue and green economy, which are things that we need as a small island development state, because our greatest resources are people, and we must invest in our people. And this government seeks to do that by way of resolution. There are many programs in resolution outlined and sections in there outlining how the different things of career development paths and the support that they would get with personalized teachers. And to sort of get back to that point again, teachers also need to be able to know multidisciplinary approaches, because as we all know, our students learn between speech, audio, verbal, visual, illustrative. And so once we invest in our teachers by giving them the qualifications and the mastery level, then our students in simultaneous classes, once teachers know these issues, can not only just make sure our children are part of the 21st century, but they lead to the 21st century. And opposition leader again talks about the 21st century, but that can only happen with the change that the government is bringing now. And sir, I'm bringing you statistics, not a bunch of fluff and political wranglings. Because, sir, the government understands, we work hard, we understand it is not falling on deaf ears. We know that the system is broken, and that is why we are here to change it. Because, sir, as I understand again.
Honourable member, at what point do you raise?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise on a point of information.
Proceed.
Okay. Go ahead, go. All right. I would like to ask the honourable member to clarify the origin and details of the statistics mentioned.
Honourable member, do you care to clarify?
I just mentioned Barbados Statistical Service, so you clearly need to listen to what I just said.
I'm talking specifically, you mentioned the specialist from Oxford University, and earlier you mentioned statistics before as well.
Sir, I think he would be addressing you, not me.
Could you please repeat?
I think he's supposed to be addressing you, Mr. Speaker. He's talking to me directly. I don't know.
That is correct. I gave him the floor to speak. So would you care to address his points, or do you want to continue your speech?
Sorry, just continue. I will continue my speech. I'm out for more time.
Honourable member, continue.
So can I get any more time, sir?
Honourable member, please continue.
Okay. And sir, to finish what I was trying to say before I was interrupted, we seek change, and we understand, education is the core of our Barbadian nature. And sir, and if that backdrop, the government understand that diversification needs to be done so that every person, whether socioeconomic backgrounds, whether they want to be in cosmetology, whether they want to be in any current and new emerging career paths in industries, that they have an education system that not only caters, but will lead them to prosperity. As my Prime Minister said, this can be achieved. It is practicable. It is done in other jurisdictions. It can be done here. And Barbados, as we all know, can punch above its weight, which is why I support resolution holistically, because, sir, it is fair, it is inclusive, it is relevant, and it will be modern with resolution. With that, sir, I'm obliged to you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Recognizing Honorable Member from the Opposition, Honorable Member Claiborne-Wright.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand before you today to oppose the resolution brought forth by the government. On Tuesday, I would have said it is commendable, but I take it back, Mr. Speaker, sir. Upon further inspection, I see that the resolution lacks creativity, lacks insight, lacks real solutions to the problems we face as students. And Mr. Speaker, I say we because I myself am a student. The resolution is too vague, Mr. Speaker, sir. And vague is the word I will be using for the rest of the day, Mr. Speaker. It is too vague. Mr. Speaker, if the government gets up and say anything that is not outlined or stated in the resolution, it is just error. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me go through these clauses. Curriculum transformation. The resolution suggests developing a modern, engaging curriculum that has gamified elements. Well, that is a step in the right direction, Mr. Speaker. I suggest a more alternative approach with bringing industry experts to design a curriculum that is more suitable for the future job market, that blends STEM and arts and the humanities, Mr. Speaker. But I skip ahead to the teacher investment. Well, the resolution incentives for teachers lacks details on how it will achieve them. I propose salary benefits to ensure that teachers are paid competitively. Sir, teachers are too overworked and underpaid. They have to be parents and everything else for the system, sir. But on the flip side of that, you also have teachers that don't do anything, that just come to school late and then leave right after without ensuring that the curriculum is taught that day, Mr. Speaker, sir. But then again, I say that it is addressed too vaguely in the resolution, Mr. Speaker. Empower all career paths. Mr. Speaker, the resolution talks about equipping students with practical skills, but it does not provide a clear strategy on how we will be doing that. I suggest, just an idea, partnerships with local businesses to create.
Just a moment, Honorable Member Rollock. I'm still hearing a little too much cross-talking. Please quiet it down. Use notes, please. That's a suggestion. Continue, Honorable Member.
Yes, please. To create real-world experiences for our students, sir. If we use local businesses to create the real-world experience these students need for the future, it is more than what the government is offering. Mr. Speaker, sir, again, I say everything is just too vague within this resolution. Lastly, while promoting digital literacy and early identification, it's a good idea, it's essential, but the resolution lacks a detailed implication plan, sir. It lacks how they will be actually doing it, how they will be taking it out, sir. For digital literacy learning, we must first address the fundamental issue. Our schools lack the technological infrastructure that it needs. It has no internet access. It has no proper internet access. Mr. Speaker, sir, regarding early identification and intervention, it is critical that we have a well-trained workforce that adequately supports these incentives effectively, Mr. Speaker, sir. And in my conclusion, Mr. Speaker, sir, well, the resolution on education reform aims to address some of these issues, sir, it still falls short on a plan, a clear strategy on how these things will be taken out, sir. Well, we ensure that any resolution is realistic, inclusive, and sustainable. We still need to remember that they need to put it inside the resolution, and if it is not in there, what they're saying is still just error. Therefore, I urge us all to recognize and refine the resolution addressing these critical gaps before moving forward, Mr. Speaker. Let us work together to create an education system that actually meets the needs of each Barbadian student, Mr. Speaker. And with that being said, I oblige to you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Recognizing the Honourable Member from Government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I would like to draw your attention to points F and points B on the resolution. Before I do that, can you imagine an education system where students with all types of disabilities, blind, deaf, or differently able in some other way, can be included in our education system? Today, I would like to highlight the story of young Janelle O'Dowd, who in 2007 was one of the first blind ladies to set the common entrance exam, and she is the first woman to be admitted to the bar. But my focus today is not Miss O'Dowd's success, but it is, however, the education system which did not recognize her disability, an education system which did not support her to the fullest extent, and an education which saw her as nothing more than a little blind girl. We, the government, recognize that, and we seek to implement what we would like to call an inclusive education system. And what do we mean by an inclusive education system? An inclusive education system ensures all students, regardless of their abilities, can learn and grow together. It fosters mutual respect and it fosters understanding. It is firm. Firm when I say it being fair, inclusive, relevant, and modern. A system where people like Janelle O'Deal do not have to sit in a regular classroom and beg for simple tools to help them achieve their success, such as digital readers. A system where they do not have to depend on teachers to read for them. A system where they do not have to seek the help of a nearby friend to do the simple thing as just send homework so that due to my special need, I have to suffer. I now move on to my second point, which that being of early identification and intervention. Imagine the amount of students who sit down in the classroom, disruptive, or what Bajan teachers like to call them as harders. They're talking in the class, they're saying on the back, they're shoots in the face, they're arguing with the teacher. And we, the teacher, just say, oh, the harders, so I put them outside the class. I put them at the principal's office. And they go through the whole primary school education like this, all the way to secondary school. But what people may not recognize is that this child may be suffering with this disability. This child may be challenged. This child may be neurodivergent. However, some we quote unquote just see them as harders, so therefore they fall through the cracks of the education system and being sit down in school form and they still do not know how to read or write. What we, the government, seek to do through this initiative, is implement the CEN assessments to detect these deficiencies at an early age so we do not have students who fall through the cracks of our education system.
Honourable Member, just bring the mic a little closer to you. Right.
So we do not have students who suffer with ADHD that still sit outside of the classroom. So we do not have students that disrupt what we would say, able students and stop them from achieving their fullest potentials. We can detect these issues and help these persons. Early identification of special needs and disabilities can be transformative in removing the barriers to our education system. It provides opportunities for all students to thrive. It also aims to prevent children of Barbados from falling through the cracks, as I said recently. So through this transformation, our nation can continue to produce great minds like Janelle O'Deal. So now I say in summary, and I leave you with a quote, disability only becomes a tragedy when our society fails to provide persons with the necessary things needed for one's daily life. I also say let's succeed today by implementing this transformation which provides equal opportunities for success. The nation of Barbados needs a firm education system. We need a fair, inclusive, relevant, and modern education system. Mr. Speaker, I oblige to you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I would like to thank the government for bringing something better than nothing, but I move on. Now, while I recognize the good intentions of this resolution, Mr. Speaker, what I see here, sir, is more of a educational tweaking rather than transformation. Now, sir, the resolution fails to address essential elements necessary for educational transformation plan. Some of the points I will mention today have been adopted in certain schools, Mr. Speaker, but I bring them up to question why these programs are not in every school, universally implemented in all the schools across Barbados. We must ensure that every student of Barbados gets high-quality education, and that is what is needed in this resolution. My first point, Mr. Speaker, is cultural and historical education. Barbadian history, culture, and contributions are vital to the educational system. Sir, our peoples need a strong sense of national identity and pride. And sir, I don't mean coloring in a flag every November, eating fish cakes at school. Sir, I mean we need to incorporate the Barbadian history and culture, fostering a profound respect and understanding for our heritage, Mr. Speaker. And my next point is environmental education. Sir, we live in a period where climate change and environmental sustainability are critical global challenges, sir. And our curriculum must include environmental science and sustainability. Teaching our students about climate change and sustainable living practices are vital for training them to deal with tomorrow's environmental challenges. So my third point here is parental involvement. At the end of the day, the most overwhelming key to a child's success is a positive involvement of the parents, by educator Jane Hull, Mr. Speaker. And with that, sir, the resolution does not recognize the importance of implementing measures to encourage parental engagement in the children's education. So I remember growing up in both primary and secondary school coming home, and the first question, you got work? You got homework? If your answer was yes, you better eat and go to the table. Answer was no, you always got homework. Still go to the table, Mr. Speaker. That is missing. Sir, a supportive family environment that supports academic study and crucial development for our children. We must design programs that actively include the parents in their children's educational journeys, Mr. Speaker. Now I move on to community partnerships, sir. The resolution does not mention again forging partnerships with local businesses, NGOs, and community organizations. These partnerships can provide, sir, students with real-world learning opportunities, internships, mentorship programs, and improving their educational experience and preparing them for the workforce, Mr. Speaker. Point 5 is continued professional development of our educators. Now, sir, before the other side gets up, the resolution does advocate for more teacher investment, but it falls short of mentioning the need for continued professional development programs. Mr. Speaker, our educators are vital for transformation. Without them, they ain't got no school. That's the truth, Mr. Speaker. Allowing them to have these programs, give them high quality learning skills to transfer to our students of this great nation, Mr. Speaker. Now, while the government may be well intentioned, it still
Madam Prime Minister.
I raise on the points of order. The honorable member is seeking to mislead the House. The same point that he just spoke to. Let me read it. Implement a comprehensive program. Implement a comprehensive program. So to say that we are not implementing programs for teachers is a blatant lie, because the word program is in the resolution.
Can I continue?
You may continue, Honourable Member.
Just for a little extra time so I can read it back to the other side. While the resolution advocates for more teacher investment, it falls short to mention the need for continued professional development. That is what I said. Sir, while the government may be well-intentioned, it still gets a failing grade for not grounding its policy in diligent research, adequate funding, and realistic timelines. We must engage all stakeholders, including educators, parents, and most importantly, the students in this process to ensure that the proposed changes are practical and sustainable, sir. Sir, in my closing, I urge the government not to rush into reforms, transformations, revampings, and overall with all the speed of a reckless ZR driver. Mr. Speaker, without carefully considering their implications and feasibility, I learned at school, education transformation must be a collective effort, a collaborative effort, sir, prioritizing the unique needs of our students while preserving the strength of our existing system. Mr. Speaker, let us strive for our education system that truly prepares the youth for not just today, but the future. While I'm in support of the idea of the resolution, educational tweaking, I cannot endorse an incomplete proposal. With that, Mr. Speaker, I oblige.
Honourable member, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, honourable members, good morning. Barbados' education system is unsustainable. It does not work for the 45% of students graduating without CSEC passes, and it most certainly does not work for the 46% of students failing 11 plus math, according to the Ministry of Education. This is because we confuse grades with growth. I support this resolution because it is designed to create change, promoting mental wellness and lifelong learning. Mr. Speaker, have you ever sat in an exam room faced with the fated, "You may now begin"? You hear a fool's cap flipping, the wind whistles, it taunts you, tick, tock. You look down, you see the erratic tapping of pens, the floorboards shake, your chest squeezes, you can't breathe. We have a "you are your grades" mentality. I'm talking about the Trinidadian student that took their life hours before a CXA exam last year. I'm talking about my peer that had a breakdown before their CAPE exam and could not sit it. I'm talking about myself on how much I cried during May. This crisis is only worse post-pandemic. The uncertain academic environment that our students were subjected to during COVID while out of government control has fostered feelings of anxiousness. Students need tools to cope. Yet, as our Prime Minister would have mentioned, guidance counselors are so overworked and forced to prioritize that many HFLE classes end up being free periods. Moreover, some students don't even have it on their timetable past second and third form. We need to go further than differentiating and identifying negative and positive emotions as outlined on the syllabus by the Ministry of Education. We want valuable classes at all levels. This year, my guidance counselor held a session for sixth form students to provide us with stress management techniques. We went through breathing exercises, peer-to-peer interactions, and what that did was initiate a conversation. Well, Mr. Speaker, a one-off session for a group of sixth formers that happened to be available on a random Monday is not good enough. We want students to be able to define, differentiate, and detect the causes of mental illnesses. We want them to know exactly where and when to get help. We want that the same way everybody in this room knows what 211 represents, that when I say 539 help, every young person in Barbados can know that that is the youth crisis hotline. That is what the proposed curriculum we are presenting includes. An honourable member from the other side would have expressed concern with the heightened stress that the addition of another class may represent. But, Mr. Speaker, most HFLE classes already do not culminate with an assessment, reducing some level of stress. Additionally, I would have strategically chosen my example to showcase how the brainstorming approach fosters critical thinking, curiosity, and a willingness to learn, which will reduce the burden. But, Mr. Speaker, let us not deceive ourselves. We cannot tell students, you are not your grades, when the system shows otherwise. When 5 CSET passes is the minimum for an entry-level job or to access tertiary education, the 19% drop in CXC participation rates is even more alarming. How can we tell our students grades don't define you when we are teaching to the test? How can a CAPE grade 1 student tell me the pros and cons of foreign direct investment, but not their opinion on the increase in US fast food chains in the Caribbean? Another youth parliamentarian would have summarized it perfectly earlier. We are teaching them what to think and not how to think. It has to stop. And that is why we are proposing diversifying assessments beyond standardized tests and using project-based learning to inspire lifelong learning in sections A and D. Many are concerned that this would be an added burden to students. Who wants to deal with a project with CXC and CAPE around the corner? But, Mr. Speaker, I draw your attention to this year's Future Forward School Innovation Challenge, where students, many of them Cape students, voluntarily presented homegrown solutions to problems impacting Barbados, including a remote control seeder, an automatic solar stop for eco-friendly transit, and even a solution to the sargassum seaweed problem. This interdisciplinary project allows students to connect what they were learning in class to the real world, and that is the true value of education. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, our students are brilliant and they're curious. But keep up this system where we feel like robots reciting Pythagoras' theorem and the 19% decrease in CIC participation will rise. Keep it up and mental health will deteriorate. Keep it up and risk leaving Barbadian youth behind. Our resolution, promoting project-based learning and implementing mental health and wellness education are but two ways that we can truly secure a bright future for every child. And with that, I'm applauding.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member from the Opposition, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, other honorable members, good day. I stand here because I am concerned about the vagueness of this resolution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, firstly, before I condemn and I bring solutions, I would like to commend us for seeking to expand the focus of disabilities beyond just blindness and deafness. However, as one of our honorable opposition members said, the opposition leader, this resolution that I have here, it is not good enough. It is not good enough, Mr. Speaker. It is
Order in the House.
Mr. Speaker, truly comprehensive accessibility requires a clearer approach, which should include educating parents and students without disabilities on the various disabilities, Mr. Speaker. Nothing in that resolution, nothing in this resolution that I have here in my hand states that. Mr. Speaker, the Education Act of 1983, Cap 41, Section 53, Subsection 2 states that the minister, where practicable, may provide special schools, or the minister may provide facilities for special education at any school. I am concerned about how practical these facilities will be when established and implemented. We cannot have our disabled students in an uncomfortable environment, Mr. Speaker. But that is not the main focus of my speech, so I will not dwell on that any longer. Mr. Speaker, in transforming our education system, it is vital that parents be taught to accept help if their child has a learning disability. They need to be taught to go to the relevant specialist and not just say, there's nothing wrong with my child is lazy, my child is stupid. Mr. Speaker, our parents should be taught to not ever address their child with a disability, a learning disability, as lazy or stupid, when they just need a different approach when it comes to learning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in a study conducted by clevelandclinic.org, it shows that students with learning disabilities have a higher chance of developing mental illness due to not only frustration that comes from not having the same performance as their peers.
Honourable Member, all point to your raise.
Thank you. Sir, raising a point of order. I don't know who's leading the host.
Honourable Member. Order. Honourable Member, is the member leading or misleading the host?
Leading the host.
Thank you.
Right, sir. The honourable member is making it is implying that there are no teachers do not know how to identify children who have special needs. But if she did her research, she would know that every teacher has a basic level of special needs education where they are able to identify. I can't speak from personnel because teachers are able to identify me, member didn't even know.
Honourable Member, what point do you raise?
That's not.
Honourable Member on the government, please sit.
Sir, it seems the honourable member is trying to engage in a the second speech, so I'd like him to sit down and then we'll continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I will reiterate, since the honorable member did not clearly understand what I said. It is not about teachers. It is about parents, Mr. Speaker. No matter what you do with a child in the classroom, they still have to go home. They still spend lots of time with their parents, Mr. Speaker. So if their parents are the parents that they look up to, obviously the parents that they grow up with are degrading them, Mr. Speaker, how can they be confident in the classroom environment? Mr. Speaker, in addition, students without a disability should be taught to not make comments about another person's disability, degrading comments, Mr. Speaker. That should be added to the HFLE curriculum, but it's not stated here. It's not stated.
Order in the House.
To read what is in this crumpled piece of paper. Clause B, Comprehensive Accessibility Standards Review. Conduct a thorough review of accessibility standards for disabled students, expanding the focus beyond blindness and deafness. Implement necessary improvements to ensure the full inclusion and participation of students with all types of disabilities in all aspects of education. Mr. Speaker, where does that mention educating students without a disability about the various disabilities and how not to make rude comments? Because children are very mean, Mr. Speaker. Children
Honourable
are very
member,
mean.
your time has elapsed. I've extended some more time to you, but please wrap up your speech.
In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I believe that until the government amends this nonsense in my hand, I will not be standing this resolution. Mr. Speaker, I am obliged to you because I cannot stand here and speak more about this nonsense because I will burst into tears, Mr. Speaker.
I implore all members of the House to hold on to the emotional control you have. Honourable member from the government, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, today I must abandon my usual elaborate introductions because I acknowledge that what this country needs is not just another good hook, body, and conclusion, but what it is in dire need of is educational transformation. My focus for today, Mr. Speaker, is on sections D and G of the resolution, beginning with section D. Now, in preparation for my CAPE economics exam, Mr. Speaker, I spent copious hours in pursuit of economic mastery. But, Mr. Speaker, I must admit, as I opened the third page of my examination booklet, my heart sank. Now, not knowing the answer to that question made me no less of a student, and certainly no less of a person. I had simply had a bad exam. But I must admit, Mr. Speaker, as I left the examination room, I questioned not only my academic competence, Mr. Speaker, but my interest in what had been for the entire year my favorite subject. Fortunately, my school-based assessment would account for 20% of my grade and more accurately represent my year's efforts. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for that 46% of 11+ students that failed that examination. And I began to wonder how many of those students like me had simply had a bad exam. And what percentage, Mr. Speaker, of those budding mathematicians simply burnt out due to this system's insistence on reading and regurgitation? If our nation is ever to reap the rewards of proactivity and productivity, then we must sow seeds of critical thinking and creativity in our youth. To transform assessments beyond the pen and paper is to prepare our students for life beyond the classroom. UNESCO's critical review of continuous assessments identified the 4 critical principles of continuous assessments. It detailed that assessments must be, and I'm quoting, fit to purpose, improve classroom teaching and learning, and engage students fully and purposely in their learning, and influence factors beyond the classroom. Does that not sound like the formula for successful educational transformation? Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, in our hands is a vessel, and perhaps the very impetus for educational transformation, which brings me to Section G of the resolution. In our hands, Mr. Speaker, we have technology. Mr. Speaker, I acknowledge, though, before we begin to use technology to educate, we must educate in technology. The digital world is no longer an esoteric area of study, Mr. Speaker, but rather the framework of future society. Technology was designed to help mankind, Mr. Speaker, but if we fail to catch the digital train and learn how to use it to our advantage, just as the car replaced the horse, Mr. Speaker, so too will technology render our students useless to the rest of the world. An article by Forbes highlighted the Goldman Sachs estimate that around 18% of global work, which accounts for 300 million jobs worldwide, could be automated, and predicted that the finance and banking, media and marketing, and legal service industries would be the most heavily impacted. Bear in mind, Mr. Speaker, that as of last year, these 3 industries constituted 58% of UWI's undergraduate student population. Honorable members, these numbers are no threat to our society, but much rather indicative of a needed educational shift facilitated by curriculum expansion, which is in Section A of the resolution, and empowerment of these emerging technological careers, which is in Section F of the resolution. With 87% of visually impaired learners noting that replacement of traditional assistive tools with traditional assistive tools with technology, UNESCO's report on technology in education linked technology to the access for proper education for disabled learners, which is in Section B of the resolution. Forbes Technology Council outlined technology's capacity to improve student engagement, which is in Section D, determine behavior patterns and accommodate different learning styles, Section H, while enabling micro-skill delivery and reducing language and geographical barriers. If I have not yet made it abundantly clear, Mr. Speaker, educational transformation and technological implementation are one
please
in the
begin to
same.
wrap up. Thank you.
I'm concluding, Mr. Speaker. A common rebuttal to this point, Mr. Speaker, is that oftentimes our teachers themselves are not digitally literate, but I wholeheartedly refute this point. Mr. Speaker, just as carriage men became driving instructors, so too can the teachers of today be equipped to teach the students of tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I urge the honorable members not to consider which side of the room they are seated today, but which side of our students' fate they will choose to stand on, Mr. Speaker. A vote for this resolution, Mr. Speaker, is a vote for the potential maximization of this country. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I am very much obliged to you.
Thank you, Honourable Member from the opposition, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to move that this honorable House be recessed for 15 minutes.
The motion has been moved that the House be recessed for 15 minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All not in favor, say nay. I believe the ayes have it. The House will now be recessed for 15 minutes. Parliament is in session. I trust the break was fulfilling. Honorable member from the opposition, you have the floor. Order, order. Just one quick reminder before the honorable member commences her speech. I'm encouraging you to hold the mic in your hand closely to your mouth so that the judges and everyone can hear clearly. Is that understood? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, good morning. How educational transformation can change the world, especially in my region. To me, educational transformation must begin with the elimination of inequalities related to poverty, gender, social class, and systematic barriers to education, as such as the common entrance exam, which places a lot of pressure on students because passing to certain schools is only based on subjects surrounding mathematics and English. In fact, the current common entrance exam system should be replaced with an alternative location zoning approach. Children will feel equal and free without being judged merely on their one-day performance. This assessment should be used to identify children's strengths and limitations, which will help them with their growth and development. Yet it is true that some people with strong English abilities may struggle with math due to the complexity of mathematical conceptions, which framework to action inclusive education and ensuring that disabled students have access to quality education on an equal basis with others. However, many public schools still lack the necessary ramps, railings, parkings, and bathroom improvements and to accommodate persons with disabilities. Let's look at the school curriculum. I was talking with a few friends about what the society deems a high achiever school and a low achiever school. And based on our conversation, we realized that there are distinct topics and courses in both schools. In reality, it was discovered that some schools have higher percentage of teachers' absence than others. Additionally, we noticed that some schools offer SPAs in term 3, while others in term 1. Why is there a difference? Unfortunately, all the curriculums are not covered mostly, and children are left to their devices. These are some education transformation changes needed, a place where education for all. According to the article published by Barbados Today on the 23rd of June, 2023, only about 20% of 16-year-olds in Barbados achieve 4 or more certificates in the CXC exams, while over 80% drop out of school as academic failures. This indicates that the selective government must take action to bring about changes in order to maximize outcomes for all students. Adopting a new approach to transform education systems as well as improving school facilities, especially for those with disabilities, will help all Barbados students develop their strengths and capabilities, preparing them for a bright future ahead. Mr. Speaker, I would leave you with a quote from the famous Sir Ken Robertson, a British speaker and international advisor on education. He famously said, "Education doesn't need to be reformed, it needs to be transformed." And with that, I'm obliged.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honourable member from government, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. In the words of our Honorable Prime Minister, Mia Amor Motley, and I quote, "We must create an environment where our young people feel empowered to dream big, work hard, and achieve their fullest potential. Education is the key to unlock those dreams." Mr. Speaker, we want critical thinkers. We want problem solvers. And of course, we want a country that is globally competitive. But we cannot have a country that is globally competitive or respected if we do not address mental health as a pertinent issue, as well as all career paths. According to the World Health Organization, and I quote, "Mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well, work well, and contribute to their communities. This is an intrinsic and instrumental value and is integral to our well-being." Let this image sit well in your heads for 1 second. Imagine a neurosurgeon wrecked with anxiety with trembling hands. Imagine a lawyer wrecked with anxiety, not being able to defend their clients, papers all over the place, and not being able to compose themselves. Mr. Speaker, I can speak from personal experience, having dealt with CATE exams and CSEC exams, not being able to sleep at night properly, not being able to sleep during the day, not even being able to escape my schoolwork while I'm sleeping, and with the constant headaches of having to hand in labs and SBAs. Mr. Speaker, with that being said, how are we to expect our children to sit down and work when we're not even addressing the mental issues that are lying underneath? Mr. Speaker, we can have as many professionals and as many materials as possible, but if, again, we do not address mental state as a pertinent issue, nothing will penetrate. According to research, and I quote, "Adolescents with mental health conditions are particularly vulnerable to social exclusion, discrimination, stigmas, educational difficulties, risk-taking behavior, physical ill health, and human rights violation." According to the World Health Organization, 3.1% of 10 to 14-year-olds and 2.4% of 15 to 19-year-olds suffer from ADHD, as well as paying attention in classes. Therefore, I encourage our honorable members to lend their imagination to a classroom with students who possess these capabilities, and a teacher who is not able to pertain to each and every one of those needs. As a result, I am more confident in the motion to referring students from the teachers to more professionals such as psychologists, or having teachers work alongside guidance counselors to cater to the path and the success of our youth today. Mr. Speaker, we have programs like CAMPA, TMHI, Teen Mental Health Influencers, where alongside two highly trained professional psychologists, several teens around the Caribbean are able to work with these psychologists and are able to identify the causes, the symptoms, the signs, and everything along with mental health. Mr. Speaker, this creates a sort of snowball effect where our own children are able to create and are able to foster connections with our own members and help one another. This also fosters a sort of be my brother's keeper. Moving on to the topic of career paths, our booklet, which pertains to the reimagining education transformation, it does not speak much about the family. However, and I quote, "Full parental involvement is required for the full realization of a student's potential." And it goes further to mention the parental engagement with the solutions like Parental. Mr. Speaker, programs such as the National Peace Program that aligns with the SEL, also known as the Social Emotional Learning, outlined already in the booklet, that addresses pertinent issues as well as wrap-around services. We recognize that the family is an integral part of society, and as functionalists say, they consider it to be an integral part that functions for the benefit of society. As a result, Mr. Speaker, we must realize that with the right guidance, with the right support, and with the right love, any child can reach their potential that they have. Our very own programs created by our people, such as the Next Step training program put in place to empower Barbadian men and women, partners with the BCC, SJPI, and so much more, Barbados Youth Advanced Corps, Pathways Employment Program, Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, Peace Program, and so many more programs implemented by our own government to cater to the development and the strengths for the careers and skills of our members.
Honourable member, your time is elapsed, so please.
In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I stand here to put an end to all claims of chaotic, clueless, or absurd risk resolutions. We don't aim to have a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, one where our slogans of each one matters and leave no child behind are manifested. We don't expect immediate change because we realize that changes to the education system must not be rushed, but must be carefully planned and instrumental. Mr. Speaker, in my last quote, I say we did not create a resolution.
I'm sorry, Honourable Member, there's no time for the last quote.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. Today, I stand before you to firmly oppose this resolution presented by the government. Firstly, I would like to bring to your attention Resolved Clause 2F, which states, empower all career paths, equip all students, including those with non-traditional strengths, with the practical skills needed to succeed in their chosen career paths, regardless of their academic background. While the intention behind this point is commendable, the government has overlooked a critical issue which could undermine its effectiveness. The proposals to equip all students with practical skills, regardless of their background, sounds ideal in theory, but is fraught with practical challenges. Mr. Speaker, the current education system is already struggling with limited resources and teacher shortages. The member said earlier there's a need for a greater teacher investment. But how much more are we going to stretch and borrow? Furthermore, how does the government expect to put more money into teachers when they cannot even afford to upkeep our schools? Mr. Speaker, I've seen it, you've seen it, the amount of schools that have been closed, secondary schools that have been closing down recently due to hygiene and structural issues. Well, Mr. Speaker, if we add all these additional layers of vocational training and teachers training, it will only furthermore disrupt the students if we don't have a clear plan. But when are we going to address the main problem, Mr. Speaker? We are failing our students to Barbados if we continue to stretch this limited budget our education gets and further disrupt their teaching by adding all these practical classes. Mr. Speaker, I believe that instead of focusing on trying to provide these skills for these students, we should focus on the root of why some of these students might be challenged, Mr. Speaker. Because I can guarantee you and every other member of this House that they were not born that way. You will see the stats that my fellow members will present to you, that our students' performances are on a decline. The amount of quote-unquote challenged students is starting to increase. Now, I don't think that's acceptable, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure you agree too. But, Mr. Speaker, I have a stat here from the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training itself. They discovered in 2023 from a math and English exam tested on second, third, and fourth formers that only the third form girls achieved over 50% average in English. And in math, Mr. Speaker, not a single year achieved over 40%. Not one single class achieved the average of over 40%, Mr. Speaker. The lack of clarity on how these skills will be integrated into our curriculum raises significant concerns about the practicality of this proposal. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, after going through the Student Revolving Loan Fund regulations, I discovered in Section 4.1 that students that are part of the fund are immediately required to work in Barbados for a set amount of time after the program. If the government's goal is to empower all students in all career paths, how can we let them require them to come to this country and have mandatory work here when we have a youth unemployment rate of I just need to get the stat correct for you, sir, of 24%. 24%, Mr. Speaker. If the goal of the government is to empower students and their careers, Mr. Speaker, this should be factorized. The government has not even addressed this in their resolution, Mr. Speaker. Are they even aware of this stat?
Honourable Member, what point do you raise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order. The honourable member is misleading the House. According to the annual report submitted by Barbados 2023, the current unemployment rate stands as lowest as it can stand since the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic crisis that we faced. It is currently standing at 7.9%, an improvement from 8.4% from last year.
Excuse me, Mr. Speaker, the member here is misleading the House. I researched this. I took my own time to specifically research this stat, Mr. Speaker. This is youth unemployment rate. This is from the ages of 16 till you're 24, sir. The ages of all these other members of the House in here, sir. How can we accept almost a quarter of them to be unemployed, Mr. Speaker? But to go on to continue to the point of the government not addressing this in the resolution, sir, we need programs to help transition our young people from the secondary school into the workplace, sir. We need a plan of how the government, we need a plan of how the government will provide jobs for the 24% of young people, Mr. Speaker, and we need to see that the government is aware of this problem and is actively seeking solutions. As Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. famously said,
Honourable Member, I'm going to ask you to begin to wrap up your presentation.
I will finish up right now. As Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. once said, Mr. Speaker, I have a dream. I am sure the young people of Barbados have a dream too. Students are dreaming bigger and more uniquely, and we believe the government should be doing better. And this resolution right here, Mr. Speaker, is nowhere near enough. With this, I oblige.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member from the government, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I would like to begin by stating that most of our honourable members today got up and said that our resolution is too vague. But I would like to point out that our resolution speaks to points. And when these honourable members had stated that our resolution was vague, they also said, I would like to speak to point this. I would like to speak to point that. And I would like it to be known that when we are taught English language, when we go to secondary school, we are told that when you are preparing a short summary, you write your points on the resolution. Yeah? Continuing my point, I would like to start by saying, take a look at my name tag, Mr. Speaker. My name is not spelled correctly, sir. And I want to say, it might tend to be a little bit picky, but my name has an apostrophe between my first name and my last name. No disrespect to anybody in the house, Mr. Speaker, but this has been happening to me my entire life. My name tag that I was given does not have on the accent that my name has on. My birth certificate has an accent on it.
Honourable Member, I would like to extend our apologies for that slight administrative incongruence, but I would like to implore you to please remain focused on the task at hand, which is the education reform with people.
Understood, sir. But honestly, that example that I rose first ties into my point when I'm about to talk about digital literacy and curriculum transformation. Because on my ID card, it has the same thing. And understand that I've been in secondary school for now about 7 years. And when I go to ask about it, they always tell me, oh, we don't know how to get it done. Which just speaks about how important digital literacy is. Because how are you an adult and you don't know how to implement an accent on a name? Now, our society is constantly changing, which means that we need to change our school approach as well. When we change our society, we need to look at what we call a digital reform. And when I say a digital reform, I'm speaking to the combination of digital literacy and curriculum transformation. The word digital is always trending these days. Everywhere you look around, you see a digital notebook. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable member, I'm sorry, but there's too much cross-talking happening in the House at the moment. There's one honorable member speaking, and she has the floor. No one else should be interrupting her speech. Please respect that. Thank you very much. Continue, honorable member.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I want you to look around in this room today. How many electronic devices do you see? I was writing a little bit, but I also have an electronic device. That just says that we really need to really be teaching people how to use these devices. Now, I want to tell you the definition of digital literacy very quickly. It is the ability, in its simplicity of course, it is the ability to use the technology to your advantage. Now that does not mean to check and spy on people's social media, but that means to use it to communicate with people and to educate people. It also is well known that our workforce is changing, and it is very probable that in the next few years, people are going to be looking for a certificate, at least a certificate in the most basic digital literacy, Mr. Speaker. And it hurts my heart to genuinely understand that we went through a pandemic where we were forced to go into online learning. And we have students that come back into our schools and still do not know the first thing about Google Classroom. Understand that in multiple different conversations with multiple different young people, I have been told, well, ma'am, I still got 87 assignments missing because I don't know how to do them. And I said, did you not raise this to your teacher? Well, she told me to do what I can, but I can't do what I can, sir. And that is a problem for me because when I was in primary school, my dad actually gave me a laptop and taught me how to use it. I believed that that was the most normal thing in the world, to be in infants B, knowing how to type out Word documents on my own, knowing the basic, very basic use of an Excel sheet, because I used to actually help my dad with his work. Yeah, but very basic knowledge, and I would talk to my peers at school about this, how I know how to type and stuff, and they would look at me like, what's a Word? What's an Excel? I don't know nothing about no document. Sir, I feel as though I'm straying off on my point, but I want to say that everybody knows what Google is, everybody knows what ChatGPT is, but if we do not teach people how to use these technologies, they will be using them incorrectly. For a good example, right? Last year, June, a lawyer found himself in serious trouble by the fact that he faked information using ChatGPT in court. But let's go on. Being digitally literate can actually promote the use of a lot of jobs. For example, a digital navigator, digital strategist, head of digital connectivity, research and management. If we start looking at these jobs to teach young people how to be digitally literate, we can start looking at a future where we don't only see an accounting profit, but we see an economic profit, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, you only have about 20 seconds remaining. So
Understood. I will wrap up now, sir. I want to wrap up by saying that as much as I stand here and I advocate for digital literacy, I want to say that it should not be taught unless we go through the hazards of internet safety and online safety. And my very small solution would be to implement online safety programs where we don't only educate our students, but we educate the adults, because we do have a Computer Misuse Act, and I believe that that act is something that everybody should know. But Mr. Speaker, I think I've made my point very clear. With that, I oblige.
Thank you, honorable member.
I quickly asked to make this a document in the House showing the statistics that my honorable made earlier of youth unemployment.
This is in relation to the member of the government. Madam Prime Minister.
I think this would be on a point of order, but I am just lost. This debate is on education transformation, not unemployment. I decided not to stand up and rebut and allow him to finish his speech. But I do not see the relevance of introducing a document that speaks to unemployment, because this debate And this is not an estimate debate either. This is not an estimate debate.
Madam Prime
and
Minister?
this is not.
Madam Prime Minister, thank you.
Okay, you get my point. Thanks.
Honourable member, what point do you raise?
I rise on the point of order, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister says this has nothing to do with youth unemployment. But, sir, in her own resolution, sir, she speaks about the fact that they want to empower a career paths. But, Mr. Speaker, how do you expect them to have a career, Mr. Speaker, if they cannot even find a job, Mr. Speaker?
Honourable member, please say. Will the order on the opposition say? We will continue. Member of the opposition, are you willing to make the document playable to the House?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The document will be made a document of the House. Recognizing the Honourable Member from the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member Zakia Sandiford, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, when I grow up, I would like to be a statue. A real statue, a mock statue. Mr. Speaker, when a child goes into the store, the child chooses the toy that attracts them. When you go into a restaurant, you choose what attracts you, right? Whether it be a burger, a chicken sandwich, a Caesar salad. But Mr. Speaker, why can't the children of our great nation do the same when it comes to picking an occupation that attracts them? My name is Zakia Sandiford, and I aspire to be a professional pastry chef. And Mr. Speaker, I have known this from the time I was a child, before I was in class 1, and everything I have done in terms of my education has been in the path to becoming a pastry chef. Now, the government has stated in the resolution, section F of the resolution, clause F, sorry, empower all career paths, equip all students, including those with non-traditional strengths, with the practical skills needed to succeed in their chosen careers regardless of academic background. But, Mr. Speaker, the government failed to tell us how they intend to do this. From primary school, we indulge in math, social studies, English, sometimes Spanish, and we continue until we are in third form. But, Mr. Speaker, why is it that we have to wait until we are in third form to choose subjects to shape ourselves into getting ready for a profession or a career? These things need to be shaped from young, Mr. Speaker. You will often hear this question amongst the youth. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a marine biologist. Mr. Speaker, I want to be a statue. I commend the government for this point made in the resolution. But, Mr. Speaker, I need more than this. This is like a cake without flour, Mr. Speaker. It is pointless. No, let us remember that the youth are our future, and we must shape them from young, Mr. Speaker. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6 says, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Genesis 1:26. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. No, I did not come here today to bash the government. Instead, I came here today to help improve their resolution, Mr. Speaker, because when it is my time to be fruitful and multiply, I don't want my children to grow up and be in this same terrible education system that I unfortunately had to go through. No, Mr. Speaker, it cannot happen. I propose the introduction of career exploration programs in schools at an early age. And for early age, Mr. Speaker, I mean primary school. Every year, there is a career showcase dedicated to third farmers. But again, Mr. Speaker, why are we waiting until third farm? You must give the children time to explore their options. And how can we, again, equip all career paths and equip all students with the practical skills needed to succeed in their chosen career paths when we do not give them the time to explore their options, Mr. Speaker? These said programs could expose students to various professions, empowering them to make informed decisions about their future paths. But Mr. Speaker, like the honorable member before me said, how can we do this without providing employment opportunities after secondary and tertiary education? Mr. Speaker, we must address the 24% youth unemployment rate. We must educate our children and youth towards responsibility and employability. And Mr. Speaker, honorable members and people of Barbados, we must develop the next generation contributing professionals of this great nation. By advocating for such initiatives, we can enhance the government's resolution and better equip our youth for successful careers. This approach ensures all students, regardless of their academic backgrounds, have the tools and knowledge needed to succeed in their chosen careers. Mr. Speaker, I'm about to conclude, but what I would like to do, Mr. Speaker, is go back over Proverbs 22, chapter 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it, Mr. Speaker. Once again, Mr. Speaker, let us remember that the future of our children's careers lies in our hands. And with that, I'm obliged to you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable member, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, today we are here to discuss educational transformation. And as the opposition has clearly addressed multiple times, the education system is in need of transformation, and education is key in order to empower our fellow Barbadians and all members of our education system to succeed in life. There are a few points I want to clarify here. The first one being the gamification of different areas such as mathematics and interactive puzzles. Gamification doesn't only speak about creating games. Gamification speaks about implementing elements of game into the education system. Elements such as point scoring, such as the value of points. Nowadays, if you go to a classroom, most students are merely concerned with passing. They don't really care about the amount of percentage that they get. The drive for education, the drive for triumph, the drive for succeeding is no longer there, and we need to encourage it, because if we do not do it now, then when? I also want to speak about critical thinking and ethics. Critical thinking is one of the skills that our generation is currently lacking. They are not only just learning information, they are merely learning it by heart to put it back on the paper of the exam when the time comes. And that is what the current education system has taught them to do. We use the very same questions from past exams in our current exams. If you take the past papers that you are given in order to study for your CXZ examinations or CAPE examinations, if you take enough of those past papers at home, you are going to find those same questions for your exam. So what exactly are you learning? Are you learning to merely give the right answer that have been already placed in past exam papers? Or are you actually learning something from your life? Now, another point I want to make is we need to stop making excuses. It has been agreed by both the opposition and the government that education needs to be transformed and that education is key for our success in life. We are all young, but we need to stop making excuses. We are discussing a resolution, not a cake recipe. It is not necessary for me to tell you to break the egg and then place it in the bowl with flour. That is not necessary. Not simply because we don't have a 1 to 10 steps. Not simply because we don't say this is going to start on the 1st of January and end on the 31st of December. That doesn't mean it's incomplete. It doesn't mean it's vague. It has touched many areas and agreed by multiple members of the opposition that are key areas which need reform and transformation in our society. Another point I want to make is, if we don't do this...
What point do you raise?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I raise on a point of order. Sir, the member would have indicated that we agree on something. We didn't agree on anything, sir.
Numerous members of the opposition have said, and I quote, education needs to be transformed. And education is key. Now, coming back to our points, we need to address problems such as critical thinking, our curriculum transformation. Students nowadays lack the proper knowledge on what to do, when to do it, and whom to do it to. Ethics is concerned with what you are ought to do. And majority of students are encountering ethics for the very first time in their lives when they reach tertiary education. So up until the child reaches tertiary education, he does not know the basic principles of what to do because he hasn't been taught that at school. Another thing that has been pointed out is the involvement of parents. It is important for parents to understand the needs of their children. However, we must consider that there are currently 24,000 single parents in Barbados. How are we to expect that these single parents manage to be involved in every single program of their kids? I have 2 parents in my household. However, the only person with a car is my father, and he was unable to attend many of the meetings and programs that the school programs, because school programs usually tend to be during school hours, which tend to be the same working hours. So how do we expect our parents, who are already struggling with the current economy, the current post-COVID-19 crisis, to take time off their job and go to a school to listen to a program? Parents, especially single parents who sometimes have to leave their kids at daycare until 5, 6 p.m., cannot take this time. It is up to us, it is up to the education system to teach and educate and form our students. Another point that comes in with this is greater teacher investment. Many of us are young. We have all, if not already, in the education system and still there learning from teachers.
Honorable Member, your time is almost elapsed, so please wrap up.
In wrapping up, I wish for you all to understand that in order to transform education, we must, 1, invest in the individuals who are teaching our children. And 2, we must do it now. If we go and write back a new resolution, like a cake recipe with steps 1 to 10, we are never going to make this change happen, and we are all going to turn gray before it happens. Mr. Speaker, I oblige.
Honorable Member from the opposition, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, upon reading this resolution, I will admit that I'm feeling unsettled and I feel disturbed. And I would like to focus particularly on Clause G, which speaks to digital literacy and online safety. Now, while I can commend the government on taking consideration to something like technology, because it is true that this is the way the world is going, our world is evolving, and technology is becoming a part of that more and more every day. However, the resolution is not adequate to sustain this in a way that is both progressive yet healthy for the youth of Barbados, and I'm going to tell you why. When I read this portion of the resolution, I began to feel as though it reminded me of a quote that I heard from Sidney Harris, which says, "The real danger is not that computers will begin to think like men, but that men will begin to think like computers." And yes, while offering literacy programs is all good and well, we also have to think about the fact that a lot of students will become dependent on the same technology, and they will not have the advanced learning that the government so advocates for. They're going to become dependent on ChatGPT, they're going to become dependent on Google, and all these different things. At least it's very likely.
Honorable Member, please have a seat.
Order. May I continue? Thank you. And in moving forward, I would like to go back to the basics, a good old dictionary definition. And we look at the Merriam-Webster dictionary, which defines learning as the process of acquiring a modification in behavioral tendency by experience. And we have to ask ourselves, what experience are we giving our children? Are we giving them the experience where they can't go out of school and hold a proper conversation without autocorrect, where they can't learn basic long division without a calculator, and they cannot be functioning members of society? It doesn't stop at school. It does not stop after they leave the screen. They're supposed to be the youth and the leading of our country, the future of our country, but this is what we have to offer them. I find it rather disheartening. I'd like to move on in speaking about the practicality of something like technology. Now, our honorable members would have spoken about the pandemic and how online learning was implemented into that and all these different things. But I would like to propose to you some statistics from Report Barbados, which held a poll speaking about student experiences during online school. And I found that 20% of students testified that they did not have the means to successfully incorporate online school into their education. And as far as I'm concerned, unless the government has some statistics that we are not aware of and the books, poverty and those different issues don't suddenly elapse because time has gone on. Children are still poor. There are still children that cannot afford it. So how are we going to pay for this? Is it taxes? Is it donations? I don't see it in the resolution. But moving forward, well, it is good to teach students about digital literacy, and it's good to teach them the way that they should go. This doesn't mean that they're going to listen. So what is the government doing to safeguard the risks that are at hand? What is the government doing to ensure that the students are not abusing the technology? And I know the government would have said earlier, oh, these are merely points, they don't have everything in there, da 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 da. However, just because it is a point does not mean that it has to be vague. And I would implore the government not to confuse conciseness with vagueness. And moving forward, I would like to say that it can turn into a very slippery slope. When we look at the University of the West Indies, our own campus here, Cave Hill, it has certain safeguards in place, like programs like Turn It In, that check for AI and artificial intelligence to ensure that university students are not abusing technology. And these are grown, hard-backed people. So how do we expect students in primary and secondary school to have the responsibility and the self-control to do the same when we can't even get adults to follow these rules? And so I think it's important that the government should include some sort of risk management, something to say, okay, yes, it's good, and yes, we're going to teach them this, but we also acknowledge that there probably is a likelihood that they will not listen. What are we going to do about that? How are we going to fix that? And so
Remember, you have about a minute remaining, so
thank you.
Please be as concise as you ask the government to be.
Thank you.
Yes.
So moving forward, I will close in saying, overall, Mr. Speaker, the intentions are there. The idea is there, but the execution is poor. It's full of potential issues, and the infrastructure is vague. Technology is not just this answer to everything. As our Prime Minister would have said, don't put paint on old buildings. And I would implore the government to remember that moving forward and try to do better. They mentioned statistics of 900 students, 900 futures, 900 lives, and this is what we offer them? I certainly hope not. And with this, I'll oblige.
Thank you, Honourable Member. At this point in time, I would like to acknowledge some of the members of the government who have stood during your speech. So, Angelica Serrano.
I would like to speak about digital literacy. You were saying, how are we going to ensure that children are not addicted to technology? But they already are. That is the reason we need this program. We need to teach them about online safety.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Obviously.
I stand on the point of order, Mr. Speaker.
I will give the previous members of the opposition a chance to respond.
Excuse me. I would like to clarify. I did not say addicted. I said dependent.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member, you've also stood during the speech.
Mr. Speaker, I stand on the point of order. She would have said something along the lines of AI can be dangerous.
Thank you, opposition. Order.
Apologies.
Honourable Member from the government, whenever addressing someone from the opposition, the government, whenever you're addressing someone in Parliament, you say Honourable Member. Do not say she, him, it, him, there, none of that. Thank you. Continue.
Mr. Speaker. Section G says implement comprehensive digital literacy programs that teach students how to navigate online environments safely and responsibly. So I believe she was misleading the House.
Honourable Member, would you like to respond? Thank you. At this point in time, I would like to recognize the leader. Sorry, one more moment. Madam Prime Minister.
I stand on a point of order or a point of information, but the honourable member, when she was closing, she said that the Prime Minister, she said this side, we spoke to statistics of 900 students. I was not quoting statistics. I said a quote, and it said 900 students, but I wanted to be clear that that was not statistics. If not, I would have said where they've gotten these statistics from. So just to clarify.
Thank you, Madam Prime Minister, for the clarification. At this point in time, I would like to recognize Honorable Member from the Government, Rashawn Walden. Honorable Member, you have the floor. Keishawn, my apologies.
Thank you. Good afternoon, honorable members. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Now, I stand here today with a heavy heart because I have an announcement. Even though you may not recognize it, there is the possibility that a lot of us could have disabilities and not necessarily know. And I say that not based solely on the arguments that were presented against the resolution, but based on a number of different factors that it was soon expand upon. Now, with the time that I have today, I'll be focusing in on point B in the resolution, which speaks to a review of accessibility standards within the education system. And to be a little bit more specific, I will be taking a look at the definition of what it means to be disabled, and then I will talk about exactly how the review standards can be reviewed for accessibility. Now, oftentimes within the context of Barbados, when we hear the word disabled, or if we ask the question, what is a disability? The most common thing that tends to come to mind is someone using a mobility aid, whether it be a wheelchair or a cane, or an individual being blind or deaf. However, the spectrum of a disability is not something as simple as black and white. It is actually a spectrum of colors which creates a rainbow. And I found the perfect definition for a disability from the Employment Act in Barbados from 2020. And it states that not only can a disability be a physical condition, but it can also be a mental condition, Mr. Speaker, that negatively impacts a person's movements, a person's activities, and a person's senses. And based on that definition, it's important that we now understand that disabilities isn't something only that you will always be able to see. There exists a number of disabilities that are not immediately seen with the naked eye. These disabilities include mental conditions such as Asperger's syndrome, Tourette syndrome, ADHD, autism, and the list goes on. I know that we have a deeper understanding of the different types of disabilities that can be had. We can now move into what a review of accessibility standards within the education system can look like. I know when I'm talking about accessibility, I'm not just solely concerned with the way that we are able to get into the physical infrastructure. I also want to place a lot more emphasis on the intellectual infrastructure that we are using, Mr. Speaker. But of course, firstly, I'm going to start off with the physical infrastructure. Of the 26 public secondary schools that we currently have, there are only 3 of which meet an adequate level of accessibility, Mr. Speaker. And this is a problem not only for the disabled students, but for the general student body, as well as teachers, which makes it a societal problem, Mr. Speaker. That is why we call for a review of accessibility standards within the education system, so that not necessarily buildings need to be updated right now, but when new schools are being constructed in the future, there is a proper format that we can follow to ensure that the school is as accessible as possible for all of those stakeholders who would be using those physical infrastructures. But that's not the main accessibility that I want to focus on, you know. As I would have mentioned before, what I really want to tune into and tap into is intellectual accessibility. Now, what am I speaking about? I am talking about these textbooks that we currently have. There is the need for a digitization of this material, Mr. Speaker, because not only do they weigh over 100 pounds, and I find it very difficult to stand up at the bus stop with those textbooks on my back, but also from the standpoint of that, by moving that information into a digital environment, you could address the needs of those who have mental conditions, those who are learning at a slower pace, in the form of it is much easier, you have a much easier time incorporating, whether it be pictures, videos, and other audiovisual elements, in order to have a greater level of engagement between the student and the content that's being brought forth. Because one of the main problems with the education system as it is right now is that honestly the children may not be interested in learning. But if
Honorable Member, you have about a minute remaining, so please begin to wrap up.
No problem. But if we are able to present that information in a way that could be a little bit more entertaining, in the long run it would greatly benefit us. And since I have 1 more minute, one of the other points I wanted to bring up is that funding these things, one of the possible rebuttal points that will come up is that funding these things could be extremely difficult. But that is not the case. First of all, it's a long-term investment. So even though it may be detrimental to us in the short term, it could be beneficial in the long term. But more importantly, it is not something that solely has to be done by government. Up to last week, Mr. Speaker, the private sector would have partnered with numerous businesses to donate over $50,000 to special needs schools. And that says that it is possible as long as we collaborate. So now, as I wrap up, I just want to end by saying this. By expanding our definition of what it means to be disabled, and by reviewing the current accessibility standards that we have now and improving them in the future, when we do construction, when we do begin the digitization of the textbooks, everyone stands to benefit. It benefits the students, it benefits the teachers, and it benefits all of society.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
I'm obliged. Thank you.
Honourable Member, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, sir, my position today is to address Clause C, which speaks on mental health and wellness education in this resolution. I was able to speak on this topic at our earlier meeting, but I wasn't able to express my intent. The nurturing of one's mental health and wellness is a fundamental part of one's growth. Mr. Speaker, it is too often overlooked. Not only that, but the government has failed in considering to educate the support system surrounding these students. I stand here to speak on behalf of the students and children of Barbados. The children who may be suffering in silence, children who may try to express themselves but the words may not form, the children who may hide away. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is too normalized. When mental health is brought up to most parents, the first response is, children don't got no stress, them job is to study and do good. All right. As bad as they may sound, they are acknowledging mental health. But, Mr. Speaker, is this the response that our young people deserve to hear? Mr. Speaker, we can all agree mental health is being taught about more than often, more than before. Before, children were completely dismissed. They were completely dismissed when they tried to confide in their parents. Before, mental health was non-existent in parents' eyes. But, Mr. Speaker, this just shows the lack of care and understanding that parents have towards when it comes to the mental stability and wellness of students. Mr. Speaker, what is mental health? The World Health Organization states, and I quote, mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their community. It has intrinsic and instrumental value, is integral to our well-being at any one time. A diverse set of individual, family, community, and structural factors may combine to protect or undermine mental health. Yes, Mr. Speaker, the government may seek to implement these classes to educate students on their mental health. But how can it impact, how can it help, how can it push students to come forward to seek help when there's no emotional backing? Mr. Speaker, this resolution is nowhere near complete. We cannot group students together who are lacking confidence to center the importance of their mental health when they are unsure themselves. We must look into the households, address the stigma within parents so they can better receive the valuable information, so the information can be relayed through them. Mr. Speaker, what the older generation has failed to realize, or they're coming to a slow realization. Times have changed, Mr. Speaker, and times will continuously change. Though I am partly glad they are trying to keep the traditions alive, the times when the neighbors raise children are over. Mr. Speaker, you can now see the world on your phone. This is where peer pressure comes in. Lack of time management, all of these contribute to the effects on one's mind. Mr. Speaker, the study cited in this resolution speaks to 18 English-speaking Caribbean countries and not just Barbados. So how can I as a young person of Barbados support this? As I stated earlier, we can not only focus our attention on students. Yes, with the way the world is going, students should be given more attention, but when they interact every day with people with such narrow minds, how are they able to express themselves and develop to reach their full potential? Mr. Speaker, the parents
The parents have to be included in this educational transformation resolution. I will conclude by saying more can be done to this resolution, and until then, I cannot stand with it. More has to be done to better equip our children, to better our children, to function in the real world. And with that, I oblige you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I recognize a member of the government. Honorable Member, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm sorry. I stand here to speak to you about the pressing issues about the educational system. All of us have passed through the Barbados educational system in some fashion, some shape, or some form. And now I urge you, it is us who now have to shape it for those currently in the system and those who will become a part of the system. The honorable member said when it is her time to be fruitful and multiply, she would like to have a different educational system. And I say that is the aim of this government as well. In 2020, 238 students sat the 11 plus at Princess Margaret. 3 of those were challenged or had special needs. And all of them had aides, had the persons to help them.
It was a mere mispronunciation. Keep yourselves together,
I am
folks.
sorry, I am sorry. I apologize.
Honorable Member, please continue.
Thank you. This government refuses to let those slip through the cracks and fall. It is our job as the government to provide a level playing field, and I don't mean Bayfield playing field. I mean to give them the opportunity to become functioning, competent adults in society. Must these with dyslexia, who can't read and who can't spell properly, must they be dependent on their parents? When they enter the working world and they can't spell, they can't do CVs, it is our job to give them the resources to help them. When those with ADHD can't sit in a working office from 9 to 5, it is our job to help them, to show them a different avenue, to show them untraditional jobs, to help them to be able to work for themselves, to fend for themselves, to have families and support their one another. Without teachers, who will shape these young minds? We speak about a lot about what those with special needs need, but what about what do the teachers need? Teachers need classrooms, they need materials, they need resources. We must provide that to them. It doesn't take a lot. You just need to support teachers. They need to have the right practical skills to acknowledge those with special needs. There are a lot that are slipping through the cracks that don't know that they're challenged. They just think they're different. Why they don't understand math, why they don't pick it up as quickly as my peer. It is the teacher's job to recognize this challenge. Those without the proper laptops, those without the proper resources, those who can't afford to pay petty fees, this government must still be able to help them. Without the proper things, the students still cannot learn and they will The point is, the government is bringing a resolution to help those with special needs, to help the teachers, to help the resources, to give them the proper classrooms, the proper training sessions. We need to train the teachers. It is not that the teachers aren't competent, it's just that they might not know how to apply the skills that they so have. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm obliged.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Madam Prime Minister.
I raise on a point of order, Mr. Speaker. I would appreciate it if you could let the honourable members know on the opposition side that we are in Parliament and therefore their behaviour should reflect such. So the laughing and the grinning and such are distracting to the others on this side.
Honorable member from the opposition will probably raise.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, sir, first I would like to gain some common ground. Obviously, everyone here does agree that the education system currently does need work and that there are some good solutions and suggestions within the resolution. But as some who have already spoke would have said, currently the education system in places such as the curriculum and whatnot are failing to teach students to critically think. As someone on the government side would have said, we are taught what to think and not how to think, and that is an issue. I have heard also stories of students who then go on to tertiary education, assuming they were able to get their 5 CSEC passes that they needed to get to that level, who go through some sort of culture shock in that they're not ready for that environment because they lack the critical thinking skills necessary to reach there. So I do commend the government on at least attempting to solve this issue of critical thinking within students. However, my first issue starts where we start talking about not implementing critical thinking and teaching students how to think, but allowing students to think properly in the first place. Obviously, if we are within a structured education system which does not allow a student to think clearly for themselves, assuming there are issues such as bullying, social pressures, and mental health issues, then whether the student can critically think or not really holds no weight in that student's life. I myself, I will not name the school that I went to, but I went through a really rough time of my life in secondary school, and because of that, I was not able to properly think and study and function in classes and actually withhold all of the information that was being imparted onto me by my teachers. This was due to mental health reasons, this was due to bullying, social pressures, peer pressure, all of these things, which are very poorly addressed in this resolution. I honestly, as an honorable member would have said earlier, they are not here to bash the government. Honestly, I am. I enjoyed sitting here, Mr. Speaker, and watching the government scramble and hide behind the vagueness of their resolution after my speech on Tuesday. I have seen not only the Prime Minister of the government side, but some honorable members speak on my speech and what I claimed, that being that their suggested solution for mental health issues of students, that being integrating a class which supports those students and teaches them about mental health, saying that that would add to their workload and further the mental health issues and risks that they already have by contributing to their stress. Now, when I originally said this on Tuesday, I had cited some studies which were listed in the resolution as stating that the workload is a major contributing factor to mental health issues and stress among students. Now, the current argument from the government side is that actually this class can be integrated instead of HFLE, replacing that class, and would not have to be a new class on the module. What I say is that this is a post hoc justification, a post hoc rationalization after my speech to hide behind the vagueness of the resolution, in that they can now say that this is the case because it is not stated in the resolution, it's not made clear. So now they can bring up these new arguments, these new opinions on how it would actually function and tell us how it can function despite what I said on Tuesday, because the resolution is vague. Next, I would like to say that an honorable member would have said that this time they will not be hiding behind hooks and phrases and catchphrases and whatnot. However, throughout this entire conversation, this entire discussion, we have repeatedly heard the government use terms such as firm and throw around all of these catchphrases, and one honorable member would have said, leave no student behind, and all of these things. So what do we say to those members of the government, the honorable member, who would have spoken out against using those hooks and those slogans that lack substance, right? What do we say to the members of government, the honorable members on that side, who are throwing around these slogans in an attempt to beautify and signify that they actually care for these students? Next, I would like to talk about the bullying and social pressures that may exist in schools that is not addressed at all in this resolution. There is no clause, nothing in this resolution that speaks to the addition of more counselors or anything along these lines. In fact, on this very clause as well, this is the clause talking about empower all career paths along with greater teacher investment. We're talking about getting teachers more training or acquiring more teachers with the training necessary to educate students or help students where necessary.
Honorable
Now,
member, your time is almost elapsed, so please begin to wrap up.
okay, thank you. Now, in closing on this point, now the current argument from the government side is that the clause which speaks about greater teacher investment also includes counseling and getting more or better well-trained counselors to talk to students. But again, this is the government hiding behind the vagueness of the resolution because the word counselor is not used in the be it resolved section of this resolution once the entire time in any clause anywhere. So what I say is, if we are to pass this resolution, what needs to happen is there needs to be a clear understanding given by the government on how these implementations are supposed to happen and who is it that are going to not only fund, as an honorable member would have said, he finds it to be easy. He says it will be detrimental in the short term.
Honorable member, please wrap up.
Can I have 15 seconds to close off, please?
Honorable member, please begin to wrap up your
so
speech.
I would say that there needs to be more clarity on how they will implement these solutions, and with that, Mr. Speaker, I oblige.
Thank you very much, honorable member. Recognizing the member of government, honorable member, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and other honorable members. I would like for us to picture the vast ocean, its waves rising and falling. Each wave here represents a student moving forward, each with their own unique rhythm and energy. But not all waves are the same. Some are steady and stable, while others struggle to reach the shore, hindered by unseen obstacles and currents. In our educational ocean, there are countless students with special needs. Each one a wave with tremendous potential. Yet, without early identification and intervention, along with comprehensive accessibility standards, these students often face powerful undercurrents that pull them back. Mr. Speaker, I stand before you in support of Part H and B of the resolution, which deals with 1, strengthening early identification and intervention services for addressing and recognizing those with special needs, and 2, implementing the necessary improvements to ensure full inclusion and participation for all students with all types of disabilities in all aspects of education. It is important to note that early identification does not mean labeling or categorizing our students too early. It involves a comprehensive assessment process that aims to understand each student's unique strengths, challenges, and learning needs. This information can then be used to develop personalized educational plans and provide accommodations to help students thrive. As outlined in the Education Transformation document, student profiles will be available, and these are vital to those who are struggling. Timely support can prevent minor difficulties from becoming major obstacles. It can involve targeting tutoring, inclusive curriculum design, assistive devices, and specialized support services to help them get back on track. As educators continually update these profiles with new data, they provide a dynamic and evolving record of a student's progress. In terms of Part B, the cornerstone of this approach is inclusion. Inclusion is about making sure that everyone, regardless of what ability they may have, is invited to the party, the conversation, the learning journey. If the opposition would have read the Education Transformation document, the government aims to transform regular classrooms into environments that uphold every child's right to a high-quality education. And this requires providing essential physical facilities, assistive devices, and most importantly, well-trained teachers that will help to give excellent instruction. Collaboration with disability experts and various advocacy groups can help to streamline these efforts. One such advocacy group would be the Maria Holder Trust Organization, based in Barbados, which has started a project called the Special Needs Education Project. What they hope to implement is key teacher training activities that can enhance existing special educational programs. Teachers in special education will require specialized training, and from their funding, they will be able to help those students who have severe challenges. Mr. Speaker, the opposition at the last sitting has raised concerns regarding the practicability of inclusion of special needs or differently able students into mainstream education, with one honorable member stating, who is to say that disabled persons will be accepted? However, who could have predicted that we would be able to soar through the skies like birds through the invention of airplanes? Who are we to say that we cannot make a change? No. Just as how faith without works is dead, ideas without action is ineffective. Honorable members, I plead to you. While changing entrenched practices and mindsets of today is difficult, it is not impossible. We have great examples like Janelle Odell and Janelle Skinner, who are symbols of triumph and evidence that disability will never mean inability. By destigmatizing the process and emphasizing the importance of early intervention and comprehensive accessibility standards, schools can create an environment where students feel safe, understood, and empowered to seek the support they need. And this is in keeping with the social and emotional learning targets as outlined in the Educational Transformation document. I will reiterate here, as I have at the last sitting, that we do not need a one-size-fits-all approach. We need a one-size-fits-no-one, so let's tailor this education to suit you perfectly. To wrap up, the Leader of Opposition previously alluded to the fact that the system of today carries a catch-up or be left behind mentality. What we are proposing can transform lives, ultimately turning the tide for students who may be left behind. With that, Mr. Speaker, I oblige to you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Member of the Opposition, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable members. Before I get into the resolution, Mr. Speaker, I brought you not an aviation gift today, but a nautical gift. I am not going to try to go it across the room, but just showing you, I brought you a different vessel today.
Thank you for sparing our eyes.
On the point of vessels, an honourable member on the other side spoke earlier about this resolution being such a vessel. And it reminds me again of our last debate where I spoke about the...
Honourable member, what point do you raise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order. This honourable member is grossly seeking to mislead the House. I never said that this resolution is a vessel, although I believe it is.
Sorry, honourable member, I'll politely ask you to have a seat at this point.
As I was saying, Mr. Speaker.
Continue.
And it reminds me of, again, our debate a few months ago where the government was brought before us an youth unemployment bill. And it seemed that the government has been going backwards, where although that bill was not as comprehensive as it seemed to have been, and although it was focused on youth unemployment, it addressed some key issues with our education system, which I thought were moving us in the right direction. Unfortunately, when I look at this document, this current resolution on education, a lot of those aspects are missing. One is where they spoke about an all-encompassing strategy, and one of the things that they highlighted, it was one of the key things that I was happy that they highlighted, was that they needed to have partnerships and support from not just the Ministry of Education, technological and vocational training, but also people empowerment and elder affairs and youth sports and community empowerment. Yet, again, in this resolution, we see no reflection of these kind of partnerships. Yes, some members may have mentioned it, but is it so literally diminishing, not that important that you can't even put it into writing? It's not going to take more than one line or two. Another thing that was missing in this one that was present a few months ago was where the government recognized that, especially when we are dealing with curriculum reform, there needs to be a collaboration with industry leaders to look at not just a formal public school education system, but as they highlighted then, an informal education system. And it's unfortunate that many of these informal issues, the government has not shown how they will shape that education system. It's been a joy over the last few years in this great nation to see how, especially coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, all of us have taken up the mandate, not just with education, but with the overall well-being and lived experience of our youth, us and even younger, our children. Just a few weeks and months ago, we have been having lots of discussion around child protection and child justice. Many times we've had rallies and press conferences, different things, again, to talk about how we can enhance the lived experience of children. And yet, in some sensitive matters especially when you deal with accessibility, with disabilities, you deal with mental health. It seems that the government has forgotten that we need to also have an informal approach to this. One of my members, more than one of my members, had to constantly remind them that there needs to be parental support and parents involved in it. When we even look at teachers and greater teacher involvement, there's an honorable member in our caucus who doesn't have the pleasure of speaking today, but on Tuesday she reminded us that we need to augment their human resources. They cannot do it alone. When you look at education systems, especially in Europe and Asia, who are a lot more advanced than us, you see a great involvement in the teaching lives from primary and secondary school of, excuse me, Mr. Speaker, of student teachers. Yet again here, although they in the preamble clauses identified that there needs to be greater career paths when it comes to education other than just going to administrators, we don't see them, again, doing anything to start bringing in those student teachers. In fact, we see greater teacher investment, yet we have not seen any investment into our teachers, those persons who are asked to be parent, bus driver, they have to be bank sometimes, they have to sew up shirts, they have to, when you go on a field trip, they have to take care of you. Teachers in emergency situations, they have to be the ones to bring everyone together, yet we don't see an increase in their pay. We don't see anything that suggests investing into them in that more tangible way to really reflect the significant contribution they have to our society. Mr. Speaker, this government has failed to put its money where its mouth is. And I'm going to give them a little donation. You know, this might help them along their way. As we continue to talk about education transformation, I want us to remember that we are not talking, and I'm thankful that those of you who wrote the resolution, you did not put public school system. But yet in your speeches, that is what is being reflected. I will
encourage you when you are having your speech to refer to me and not to the other members.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
I'm happy that the honorable members, again, did not say public school system, but education system, because this truly is not limited to the classroom, not limited to 8 to 2:30 or whatever time school begins or closes, but it's something, an education which is holistic and has to be that way. They spoke about the struggles with learning paces. They spoke about the lack of personalized attention. They spoke about disengagement in their preamble clauses. Yet when you go to the operative clauses, what we are going to do, we see a lack of that integration with the home, that integration with the community, that integration with the other places that the students spend their time.
Your time is elapsed, so please bring the speech together.
In concluding, Mr. Speaker, students spend X amount of time in the classroom and around their teachers. And I encourage us that as we seek to explore education transformation, we look at how we can benefit them even outside of that time. Or else, Mr. Speaker, me, and I speak for the rest of my caucus here.
Honourable member, your time is already up, so you can't really speak for anyone else. So
we cannot support this in its current state. Mr. Speaker, it is grossly incomplete. And with that, I am obliged to you.
Thank you very much. Honourable member, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, honourable members. Mr. Speaker, what is education transformation? It is a change that takes place in the methodologies applied to the teaching and learning process. Those changes are associated with social issues, values, and practice that affects the way we teach and learn. Mr. Speaker, the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, recognizes that a well-rounded education for all is essential for fostering individuals' growth, naturally developing and building a posh Barbados. The current education system in Barbados, despite providing some valuable instructions, remains sturdy to colonial structures and prioritized thereby failing to address the needs and the histories of the Barbadian people. Mr. Speaker, but why we must do this? Barbados needs to build a country that is globally competitive. Consequently, We must equip our children for lifelong learning, emergence, livelihoods, and life in the 21st century. Our education system must therefore be focused on the development of global citizens rooted in Belgian values. Mr. Speaker, equality of opportunity. I don't just want to touch on that. Education transformation in Barbados is a talking point. And this government knows that some of our young people have reading, writing, and math challenges, which cause problems in understanding classwork. While on the other hand, there are students who have fear or no challenges with reading, writing, and math challenges and can excel in more subject areas. Therefore, we need to have resources in schools for children who are diagnosed with reading, writing, and math challenges, like more specialized teachers to assist and to work with those children who are diagnosed, and teachers to work with those children who understand work in class and can excel more than those children that are diagnosed. Mr. Speaker, if we want to build a better Barbados, we have to have equal opportunities in our education, equal opportunities for young people who have skill and in our sports, equal opportunities for young people who have skill and talent, to build a better future for our country because our young people are the future of Barbados. So having equal opportunity is what is needed in our schools and outside our schools. Mr. Speaker, greater teacher investments. The time to invest in teachers is now to ensure stability, recovery from the crisis, and prepare today's learners for tomorrow. Over the times we have seen overworked teachers suffering with depression and personal issues which can affect their teaching and their children. Having counseling programs in the ministry or in schools to help and assist with those teachers that needs the help. Showing appreciation for teachers going over and beyond their expected duties. For example, spending their money on children, providing lunch for them. Buying school supplies to put in their classroom. Some teachers will personally buy a child's complete book list. Mr. Speaker, I personally know a teacher who took in a child and raised her as her own, and she was the sole provider during that time until the parents came back for her for years. Mr. Speaker, teachers are the foundation in this education system. Investing in teachers is to ensure that all of our children have a sustained education. And Mr. Speaker, I will end by saying this. Investing in our teachers and investing in our children will succeed in today's education. Also, going forward with this education transformation, we must bring teachers into this. Training teachers to recognize and to identify those children that have those challenges. Remember, to build a better future for every child, we cannot only train a child to be economic, but like I said before, there are children out there that have skill and talent. They can also build a competitive country and build a better future for themselves. And with that, I oblige.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, but I cannot support this resolution. I draw attention to Clause A and D, which speaks to attempt to instill critical thinking skills within our students in ways of curriculum transformation and the transformation of assessments to promote lifelong learning. Now, the Education Act, under Section 2, subsection 1, defines a school as an institution that provides primary and secondary education. And also under Section 2A, its purpose is to provide a varied and comprehensive educational system in Barbados, characterized by excellence. But based on this definition, it doesn't seem as though we have schools in Barbados. It looks as though we may have regurgitation centers, memorization facilities. Critical thinking skills seem just as elusive as finding a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. Nowadays, the briar patch for the youth who do not excel in this current education system. It is no longer a plantation ground pulling grass. It is the block It is the crime, the guns, and the drugs. We need an education system that prepares our students for the future and prevents them from being sent to the briar patch. Critical thinking and comprehension is the prime issue with our education system. Students enter the UWI and they suffer a culture shock because they lack the critical thinking skills that are required at that level, which should have been cultivated and developed prior to tertiary education. Encouraging students to ask questions even from an early age will develop analytical skills. Our school system needs to focus more on learning. One song I loathe in primary school is the timetable song. 2 ones are 2, 2 8 are 2, 1, 2 twos are 4. I hate this because it focuses so much on memory. And even though I know how to solve the problem, my teacher only cared if I sang that song right. Another point. Will these certificates from these schools of excellence be recognized by the UWI? Will the government give scholarships to students who excel in these areas, like students who excel at CAPE, to further their studies? Will these assessments be recognized by the business community, or will they just be decoration for the bedroom wall? I recommend that we have a discussion with tertiary level institutions and businesses regarding their qualifications and acceptances in these institutions, and town hall meetings with the general public. Now, Mr. Speaker, an honorable member on the government side touched on funds, but where in this resolution does it speak about funds? This is an ambitious proposal requiring changes, a hiring of whole new personnel, and a whole transformation. But wait, we find the pot of gold. The funds are not adding up. And as a young person like myself would say, the math ain't mathing. And I was not on my times table, but I could tell you that 2 plus 2 is 4 minus 1, that's 3 quick maths.
Order.
Not a mention.
Order in house.
Not a mention of how this will be financed. As a representative of the youth in Barbados, we need to know, will we be taxed more? Will the students be required to pay tuition? Or will this initiative just fall through the others, just like a previous education initiative a few decades ago?
Honorable Member Charlene Ford, your time is almost elapsed, so please wrap up and save the speech from the briar patch.
I will conclude with this. I hope that any transformation that is done to this education system will produce more than just a regurgitation center. Because as we speak, I am not convinced that this government can guarantee a bright future for every child based on this resolution. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I oblige to you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member from Government, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, good afternoon. Today we are gathered here to address the pressing need for reform in our education system. Education is the cornerstone of any nation's progress, and in Barbados we must strive to create an environment where every student has the opportunity to thrive. This situation is not just a minor hiccup, it is a significant barrier to the potential of countless young minds. To address this, we propose a comprehensive approach that focuses on 3 main areas: curriculum transformation, greater teacher investment, and empowering all career paths. Firstly, curriculum transformation is essential. Developing a modern, engaging curriculum that fosters through critical thinking, project-based, problem-solving skills, and lifelong learning can significantly improve a student's outcome. Now, Mr. Speaker, imagine a student tackling mathematical problems with interactive challenges and puzzles, making learning not only effective but fun. According to the Ministry of Education 2023, shows that gamification in education can increase student engagement by up to 60%. By making learning more interactive and enjoyable, we can ensure that students remain interested and invested in their education. Secondly, greater teacher investment is crucial. Implementing a comprehensive program that provides various incentives to not only attract but retain high-caliber teachers in the classroom setting is necessary. Teachers are the backbone of our education system, and their professional fulfillment is paramount. According to a recent study by the Barbados Teachers Union, 70% of teachers expressed a development opportunities and career growth within the classroom without shifting to administrative roles. By investing in our teachers, Mr. Speaker, we not only improve their job satisfaction, but also enhance the quality of education in our students, the quality of education our students receive. Lastly, we must empower all career paths. Equipping all students, including those with non-traditional strengths, with practical skills needed to succeed in their chosen career is vital. In Barbados, there has been a growing recognition of importance of vocational and technical education. Now, according to the Caribbean Development Bank, there is a projected increase in demand for skilled tradespeople in the region by 25% over the next decade. By providing students with tools they need to succeed in various career paths, we can ensure a more inclusive and equitable education system. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, by transforming our curriculum, investing in our teachers, and empowering all career paths, we can create an education system that accommodates the diverse learning paces of our students and addresses the issues of disengagement and lack of personalized attention. Now, let us work together to build an education system in Barbados that truly supports and uplifts every student. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I am late.
1 point to raise. Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member from the opposition, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, specially invited guests, and judges, good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, before I get into my speech and also some of the points that the government would have bring in this resolution, Mr. Speaker, I would just like to reiterate that my opposition members, we have come here today and stated about our solutions and how this resolution can be enhanced. Don't think that we just come to, as my member would have did, ball it up and put it in the trash. No. That was to show symbolization that a change and some critiques in the resolution is all that is needed to make it holistic towards transforming education, which is what all of us have come here to help do. Mr. Speaker, I would like to start with something that is not mentioned. It was mentioned by the honorable member, but it's not stated in this resolution, and that is infrastructure. That is necessary for this education transformation, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to quote something from blogs.worldbank.org. A recent study from the UK found that the design of education infrastructure affects learning through 3 interrelated factors: naturalness, which speaks of light or air quality; stimulation, examples, complexity, color; individualization, which is
speaks of flexibility of the learning space. Mr. Speaker, infrastructure is one of the most crucial.
Honourable member, there's just been a lot of cross-talking happening, unfortunately, from your own side. I would encourage them to please stop that so that you could continue your speech clearly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I went to a secondary school, and I will not name it. But when I first went to this secondary school, Mr. Speaker, and I got out my parents' vehicle, I asked myself, what is this? I thought it was a prison with the amount of iron bars that I saw and how different sections could be locked off, Mr. Speaker. So in my opinion, I tell myself, is this a learning environment for me? Did I come to the right place? Did I accidentally get put on the prison bus? But no, Mr. Speaker, as I would have went there day by day, I realized this is actually an excellent educational institution for learning, but it just needs a change in infrastructure, and that is what needs to happen in some of these primary and secondary and even, I would say, tertiary educational institutions in this country, Mr. Speaker. No, Mr. Speaker, let's get down, as the old people would say these days, to brass tacks. Let's deal with this resolution, Mr. Speaker. I would like to point you to point A, and I go into the latter clause. It states this includes incorporating gamified elements where appropriate to enhance student motivation, such as in mathematics, through the use of interactive challenges, puzzles, with the view to enhancing student engagement. That is all fine and dandy. But my question today is, at what level do we speak about? Are we speaking about primary, and then carry it over to secondary? Because as far as I know, if at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, I deal with subjects such as algebra, statistics, trigonometry, and graphs, how can this puzzle help me, Mr. Speaker? How can that help me?
Honourable member, what point do you raise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order. As previously stated, and I would recommend the honourable member of the opposition to listen and critically think about what is being said here. Gamification of subject is not only creating a puzzle or creating a game. It is about incorporating game aspects. For example,
Honourable
score
member,
pointing,
please
following
have a seat.
rules.
Thank you, honorable member, for enlightening me. But I got a question. It was not stated throughout this whole debate, and I have it put on the paper, and since you bring it up, I can bring it to the floor.
Honourable member,
Sorry, honorable member. Sorry, Mr.
Properly.
Speaker.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Mr. Speaker. Sorry, Mr.
Thank you.
Honorable member, I would like to bring to the floor that it hasn't been mentioned to me what exactly is critical thinking. No person in this honorable chamber stated to me what is critical thinking. I have here, and it is stated throughout the resolution, fosters critical thinking. Test to measure critical thinking, but what exactly is critical thinking? That hasn't been stated throughout. But you know what, I digress, and let's move on. Mr. Speaker, in this year's 11 plus, it was stated by Barbados today that there was a fall in math to 54.62%, and also English to 65.2%, Mr. Speaker, and alarmingly, students gaining a 0. Mr. Speaker, when I saw this, I felt like my heart stopped. I asked myself, how is this possible? Because as far as I know, if it changed, Mr. Speaker, you let me know. When we start the 11 plus exam for maths, let's deal with maths, right? We get adding and subtraction. Are you trying to tell me?
Honourable member, I'm going to ask you to begin to wrap up your speech.
No problem, Mr. Speaker. Are you trying to tell me that our students aren't capable of doing simple adding and subtraction? Mr. Speaker, as I close, from the time we realize students are getting a 0, Mr. Speaker, we have a serious issue and it needs to be fixed. Now, this resolution is a start, but it's not the full-fledged and has the necessity needed to be a holistic approach to solve the problem in this education transformation. And with that, I'm obliged to you.
Thank you very much. Honourable member from the government, you now have the floor.
Good afternoon. Right. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, and all other honorable members of this House. Today, as we all know, a resolution has been tabled before this honorable chamber on the topic of education transformation. Now, Mr. Speaker, transformation has been a buzzword of some sorts for about the last 8 months, ever since the Chief Education Officer and the Director of Education Transformation would have unveiled the education transformation proposals last October at the Lawyers Kingston Center. Now, I would have had the pleasure of attending that event, and ever since then, what has become abundantly clear to me is how important and how relevant the core ideas expressed in that ceremony are to Barbados' future. Recently, 46% of students failed mathematics at the common entrance exam. Interestingly, however, a lot of the top performers stem from private schools. This contrast makes it obvious that the education system which Barbados fought for and made free for all Barbadians is now beginning to fail the average Barbadian child. Additionally, I think we need to recognize our past. This is a colonial system. This is a system that was given to us by imperialists and oppressors. This system has not and cannot evolve to empower a variety of career paths, and it is not inclusive, and it definitely is not modern. And I must add, it is rooted in a corrupted ideology. Now, we know that was the way of yesterday, but as a government, we have recognized that it is necessary to create Barbadians of today, Barbadians who are globally competitive. But being educated in a framework provided by individuals who saw us as subhuman does not allow for such a Barbadian to flourish, Mr. Speaker. Now, transformation is not straightforward. It is not linear. It will take trial and error, consultations, and a lot of innovation as well, Mr. Speaker. But to provide a bright future for every child, it is necessary. Now, the opposition, throughout the entire day, has raised an argument about how it's vague and it does not address the transformation adequately. But that is a misdirected truth. This is the first, and there are going to be other things that will be brought forward by this government on the topic of education transformation. But what we must recognize, Mr. Speaker, is that we have to start somewhere. Additionally, I must add, after all that has been said here today from the opposition benches.
Honourable Member, what point do you raise?
I rise on a point of order. The honourable member is misleading the House. This is the final resolution, and that is what the government has to offer, and that is final.
Mr. Speaker, sir, do I have to address the point?
You may if you so choose.
Thank you. So, after all has been said today in the opposition benches, Mr. Speaker, another thing has become clear to me. That opposition only care about politics. They only care about politics, Mr. Speaker. You want to know what they don't care about, Mr. Speaker? They don't care about the people of Barbados. They don't care about the young people of Barbados. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, they do not care about the future of Barbados.
Member, what point do you raise?
Sir, raise on a point of order. The notion that we do not care about young people of Barbados is absurd. So I'd like to ask the honourable member to withdraw that statement. Starting in order 28.7, no honourable member may impute improper motives to any other member which is in violation. Thank you, sir.
Honourable Member, would you like to retract that statement?
Mr. Speaker?
He needs to. He's in violation, sir.
No, sir. No, I do not. My statement was not directed at any specific member.
Honourable Member, that is not entirely accurate because you would have mentioned the entire opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I will strike it from the record just so I can continue with my debate.
Thank you.
But Mr. Speaker, what I will say is that this government, led by this wonderful Prime Minister, does care about young people. We do care about the future of Barbados, and that is why we brought forward this very resolution to this chamber today. What I think needs to be recognized is that our people are our best, and to some extent our only resource. And so now is the time to start investing in them. And investing in them means investing in our teachers, investing in digital literacy and online safety, and also investing in mental health and wellness programs, all things that have been addressed by this very resolution. And sir, I heard them raise a financial problem, and I do not believe this is the estimates debate, so I'm very confused. But what I will say is that with this government, led by such a capable Prime Minister, money will never be the issue when it comes to our young people. Now, Mr. Speaker, I will conclude. If we do not want to fall into a state of educational apartheid, where only the top, the rich, are successful and everybody else has to struggle for opportunities, we will support this resolution. As many others would have said today, including the leader of government business, this is built on the foundation of providing a firm education system. That is one that is fair, that is one that is inclusive, that is one that is relevant, and that is one that is modern. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I support this resolution. I support this government and urge all other members to do so if you really wish to transform education in Barbados. With that, I'm obliged to you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to move that this resolution be passed in the Honourable House.
The motion has been passed. The motion has been put forward, moved, that the resolution be passed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those in favor, say nay. Nay. Those in favor? Those not in favor, my apologies, say nay. Nay. I believe the ayes have it. Leader of Government Business, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone again. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I would like to thank the BNYP for the opportunity today to have this debate on education transformation. Though we had a lot of input from the opposition side, I would like to remind them, as my honourable member did say, this is not a debate on estimates, it was on education transformation. So as well as you wanted to make those comments, please come back to the matter at hand. I want to talk about a bit about teachers and the role that they have to play. Mr. Speaker, we understand that all of us here, we are still students, whether you are in BCC college or secondary school. We can all remember any of our favorite teachers who have played a role in our coming into school. We can remember some of the talks, some of the encouragement, some of the pointers that they would have given us to help us in our educational life. So I want us to remember that moment that we had that talk with them, that conversation, and say to ourselves, well, looking back at what they've said and what they've offered for us, what can we do as young people here to make it better for the next coming generation? There's a song that says that you will sing in church, and may all who come behind us find us faithful. Today we had an opportunity to come and speak. Now, I don't remember hearing not one solution from the opposition. All I heard was opposition. I did not hear anything that we can use to implement into our resolution that we could do to make educational change. I did not hear one. Anyhow. Households, we heard a lot about engagement of parents and stuff. My honourable member stated that there is a 24,000 single parents in Barbados. It did not.
I'm calling for order in the House. The Leader of Government Business is speaking.
Thank you, Mrs. Honourable member. On the government side, to be clear, she said that there are 24,000 single parents. Now, they did not give a specific on what gender it is, but I would assume it is female. Now, opposition member talked about violence in schools and so on. And we can say that could be due to the fact of not having males in the households. So, and there is a lack of male teachers in schools. So I would say that we could have more male teachers into school to cater to the young men. Because as nurturing as women are, a man could cater to a man much better than a woman can. That's debatable, but I would say that. I would like to end in saying that for the next debate, whenever that debate is, I hope that we are not, our thinking is not confined to the side that we are on, but not to ridicule only ridicule the resolution, but to actually aid, I'm saying this again, to actually aid the government in giving your pointers instead of just bashing and playing politics, really. But remember why we are here, and to use the opportunity that, as we heard, people are listening to our voices, and use that opportunity to say truly what comes to our hearts when it comes to the topics that we are brought before us. And with that, I would like to say thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Leader of Government Business.
I would like to invite the opposition to say the vote of thanks.
Thank you. Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So my task this afternoon is pretty simple. So on behalf of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, the Barbados National Youth Parliament, the members of both sides, we would like to thank each and every one of us who would have spent time with us last week at our training session and who would have made time to sit in on the debate we would have had today. I cannot leave without, because the Bible says give honor to where honor is due, so I cannot leave without giving honor to our chairperson of the committee and the committee members, along with the management of the ministry, Mr. Hunt, who's in the back, and Ms. Titus, and the minister, and all those who have facilitated us to be here today. I also wish to thank the NUPW who hosted us last week, and the Seventh-day Adventist Conference Room, and the members who are here working with us in terms of the technical team, the members of the visual team, we thank you. And to all those who I have forgotten, we wish to thank you. And with those two words, Mr. Speaker, I'm obliged to you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Leader of Government Business.
I stand to move that this Honourable House be adjourned until the next debate date.
The motion is moved for the House to be adjourned until the next day of debate. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those not in favor say nay. I believe the ayes have it. And with that, I'd like to call a close to Parliament.